Hello again to all the fine folks who are tuning in wherever and however they're doing so to this podcast recap installment for the season finale. Yes, we are at episode 10 of the sci-fi original series Revival. As we always say, spoilers are bound, so please only be checking this episode out if you've gone through the entirety of this season of the program. We're back at it discussing said finale called Rend the Veil, the we being myself, Sean Talley, and I am joined, as I always am, by the co-host with the most on her birthday, no less, Liz MacArthur. Welcome.
Yay, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. That's our line, but yeah. And yes, thank you all for tuning into this program. Liz and I are going to do this once again with the creators, with the showrunners, with the executive producers of Revival. Thank you for joining us, as always, Aaron B. Koontz and Luke Boyce.
Lovely to be here on Liz's birthday, especially. What an occasion.
Honored
to celebrate. Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Yep. Nothing stops us from getting these recordings done. We'll jump into Rend the Veil as we do a little scene by scene here and start on the tease. We do open. I know you guys had mentioned this. This one took some reworking too, so we'll talk about it. But we open on some shots of Wausau and hear the words of Blaine Abel saying, "We have been hearing this term over and over. Revival, a sacred word meant to represent spiritual renewal." And we're close on and now inside of the church. And we actually see Blaine is speaking this currently into a microphone doing the radio sermon, as Em Cypress is still chained up to a cross at the front of the room. Blaine continues to cite revelations here, the ancient serpent, the demons being cast out with him, and he wants all to witness him cast out this demon and end Satan's reign within Wausau. Em says he couldn't keep her dead the last time, and he's not going to keep her dead this time. And Blaine calmly responds, "I never laid a hand on you, but now my angel will." And as promised by Stephen Ogg in our last recap episode, we do get to hear Blaine begin singing. Tyler injects another big needle into M, and as Blaine continues singing, he walks past Ibrahim, who we do see is now bound in handcuffs. Blaine ends up back in front of M, who's now, out of it from the shot, and he ends his song and he smiles at her, kind of face to face, as we do go to the credits.
Yeah. So original tease, we'll say, was you see actually flashes of that tease in the episode later, but it was all a flashback of young Em and Dana giving her. You see the journal that Dana's giving, and you see Dana wearing the hoodie that becomes Em's hoodie later. And a variety of reasons why the scene didn't quite work, but was great on the page and could have been cool. But I think it's something we could still do, in the future. And it's good because we also needed the time in this episode. We wanted to be able to take time at the end, but then also it's very jam-packed, in these first few acts. So that it worked to have the time anyway. But yeah, and then also originally, the conversation with Dana and Wayne in the car, the aftermath of, learning about the infidelity, that was also the top of episode 10. But because episode 9 was actually short in time and episode 10 was going to be long in time, we reworked it at the very, very end on the page. This wasn't just in the edit, but like on the page and revamped that. But yeah, I think there's also something fun about, if you look at the first time you see M meeting Blaine, there's this nice little, it's not really a 50-50 because you can kind of see Rhodey and Dana that are there too, but it's just them like face to face in episode 4. And that same kind of frame, even though different directors and everything, you see is right here at the end of the tease. And that's when I was working with Kurt, our editor, I was like, this is kind of like a good out, I thought. Because we, at first looking at it, we didn't know what the tease was going to be of this, of how we were going to find the out. And there was just something about Blaine and her face to face, and that kind of old Texas standoff type thing was kind of cool. But it's in particularly, I really like it now more just because of how it parallels to 104.
Right. And you guys mentioned you never actually got to shoot young Ibrahim in that number 9 tease, but clearly you shot the 10 tease as you'd mentioned. So I was going to ask you at the end because I saw Dana with the bangs and the hoodie. I was like, was that pulled from this? So I guess you answered that question for me. So
yeah, it was pulled from it. And then also the other thing I'll quickly mention is that we say the name of the show in the thing, which that doesn't always happen. Like that's like, do you say the name of the movie or the show in the thing? But he says time of revival right off the bat, which I thought was kind of cool. Something Luke had added and I thought really dug. I think it's fun to do that sometimes.
You do say Revival Day. Excuse me, Day. Revival Day many times, but yes, I know what you mean. Like you don't just say the word revival kind of in a standalone, I guess.
Yeah, but also just because revival. So revival as a term, if you've ever searched it on the internet, is a pretty largely religious term.
Yeah.
Like extremely religious term.
Oh yeah, we're working on the hashtag for next season. Trust me, it will not just be revival. It'll be like revival sci-fi or revival TV because. Searching that for
I don't mind taking it over, right? Like
I liked it.
Yeah, take it. But
we had that dude who was like, "Why is revival trending?"
Yeah, I just meant for search reasons, for selfishly. But yes, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but Luke responded great to that though. He's like, his first response on Twitter was like, "That's the Reverend Blaine Abel," and I was like, "That was great." And then I just screenshotted it separately. It was like, this is what happens when you get a couple of atheists that have to make a show dealing with their religious issues growing up. And I think it's pretty funny. Why is revival trending?
Yeah.
Christians?
That was, like trying to acknowledge the fact that, like, if you are Blaine, if you are coming from, I mean, brass tacks is that Blaine's father was a revival tent preacher, right? So that's an element that we specifically that drew us to characterizing Blaine the way that we did. So we wanted to acknowledge that. We wanted to acknowledge that term is actually very sacred term in Christianity. And so, and here it is, Revivers, Revival Day, that's irking Blaine, and he's going to take it back. So
yeah, Blaine isn't, I won't take too long on all this, I know, but also Blaine is not just speaking gibberish. I will say, like, there's a lot of religious, obviously these are weird religious and revelations type terms, but if you start to research, including the title of this episode, Rend the Veil, has a very specific meaning to what's happening in this episode. And so all of the Blaineisms and this religious vernacular there's a lot to it. And he's actually saying pointed things, very specific things about his motivation, what he's looking to do, and how he's interpreting these people coming back from the dead being something else, and being why he thinks of them as demons. And he's citing actual scripture that he's misinterpreting and misappropriating for his particular purpose. So, and this goes all the way back to, the second episode. The serpents and the scorpions and like all this all starts, there's something he's saying and that's there. And there's probably a very bored person who wants to go through and take all the things that Blaine has said and start to lay them out. And I think you'd start to find some really interesting scriptures and what if you kept reading what some of those things were and all that. So we spent a lot of time in that no one will ever figure out.
And singing, because yes, I do love Stephen Ogg singing it. I think it was so wonderful. He was so dedicated to this song, and we went over it over and over again, just like the pacing of it and everything. He was so excited, and then he texted me at one point. He's like, "Please tell me the singing is still in there." Oh, we wouldn't cut that. Trust me.
Did you guys ever have to go to church when you were a kid? Did you?
Oh my God! Let's not even go there.
Did you? Was it Catholic? I don't know. I had to go to Catholic church, and the creepiest part of Catholic church is always when the priest just starts singing out of nowhere. That's always the creepiest part.
Hymns are creepy.
Yeah, they are.
That's where that came from, because it's like, and that's the idea was originally it was kind of based on Robert Mitchum in Night of the Hunter sings "Leaning." It's just so creepy. He does it so slowly. Sings this hymn, and it's still one of the creepiest things to me in cinema. And we're like, oh, let's do that. And there's A Mighty Fortress is the name of the song, and there's like a whole verse about just like demons coming onto the earth and defeating demons and getting them back to hell. And you're just like, wow, this isn't a song that they sing in church. So you had to put it in there.
Yeah, Luke and I were both grew up in an extremely strong Christian homes. I was forced to be in the goddamn choir, all this stuff, and I don't sing. I can't sing for shit. But I always had to be in the choir. I always had to be all this stuff. Like my parents were in the choir when I was younger. So I know the words to like every one of these Jesus songs, you know, and it'll come up and I'm like, oh my God, I know all the words to this too. Like, oh, gross. Like, how is this still the case? You know, it's just horrendous. So yeah, no, there's a lot. I mean, there's tons of stuff in here that comes from our background and just understanding how particular, and we talked about it a lot in the writer's room, and how particular families. And I thought about like how my mother was very religious all the way up until her passing. You know, and the last time I was in a church was at her funeral. Prior to that, the last time I was in a church, I think was probably a funeral. And she wanted me to go to church. Like all the way to her passing was asking me to go to church, praying that I would go to church. And I had to tell her, like, in the most vulnerable spot, you know, I'm like, Mom, I'm still not going to go to church. I love you so much. I'm not going to church. You need to know that. I'm also not having a baby. So those two things to me, and I don't know which is worse, to be clear.
You're a real disappointment.
Yeah.
So those are the two things. But yes, no, there's so much, and look at my background, are so similar. It's such a weird way. We had no idea. And there's always all these things that pop up all the time. We're like, oh my God, you too? He's exactly like brother. Yeah. You know, so.
But our religious baggage is heavy. There's a lot of water under that bridge.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the real world.
Yeah. Yes.
No, we're glad to have you guys broken free.
Well, Shawn. So now I know we're just like 1 minute in. We'll keep
it's
talking.
the finale. Sorry, guys.
But Shawn is a big reason why I broke free. I have to say, like Shawn questioning me. I mean, like, you don't really believe that shit, do you? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? When I was in like 8th, 9th grade, I had no idea. And I think it was either God Delusion or God Is Not Great or something. There was a book you either gave me or told me to get. And then I read that. And then it was weirdly Keith Olbermann on MSNBC. It was ranting about Christianity, and Shawn was showing me some of his rants. And I started watching that, and like that combination of things. But Shawn is a big reason, because I was like working with the youth pastor and all. I mean, I was an associate youth pastor at my goddamn church. The irony of that sentence does not leave me. And so it was like a whole thing. But Shawn I give all the time. I always tell Katie, my partner, I'm like,
you told me that a few times.
Shawn's a big reason as to why I like pushed me to be like, what the hell's wrong with you?
To be
like,
clear,
you're a smart guy.
I just came to it a little earlier than the rest of you. I always say I was a religious from 3 to 13. Right, that was it. Like at 13, I finally told my parents, I was like, yeah, all that is nonsense. I don't really believe it, and didn't go well.
Yeah, I was a lot later. Yeah. I did literally lead every Sunday. I led worship at my church. I stood up, I played guitar. I was the worship leader for years. So Blaine singing a hymn, it comes right from directly from that baggage. Yes.
Oh my God.
All right. We've stayed pretty straightforward with these recaps. So if anybody's complaining that we're off script, like, oh, sorry that you got to know the people on this program a little better.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, well, then that means they're listening. So I'm fine with that. Yeah. Just be upset. Be upset.
We'll jump back here. We are actually back on this same moment with Blaine saying that his father foretold that an angel would reveal itself to him, and the day after Revival Day it did. He says an angel spoke to him in pained agony, and it said Rose's name. Ibrahim chuckles from the pew. He says it's not an angel, it's confirmation bias. Blaine shows his hand to Ibrahim, saying it cannot be touched by human flesh. He watched it obliterate a reviver, and Ibrahim says, I saw one too, but it was not an act of damnation, it was an act of reunion. And Blaine wants to be right so bad that he's willing to kill people. Blaine, annoyed with this, radios his militia in the woods. We actually again cut back to seeing Clarice's dead body on the ground as the Blaine's relays kind of ring out to no one out there. And he says the angel's supposed to be here by now. He tells his armed men to go to the creek, find out what's going on. And Ibrahim asks about the reviver woman he tortured. Does he know her name? Blaine sits down by him and says her name died when she died, and what came out of that grave was a vessel of evil. And Ibrahim says, no, we saw the video. What did Wanda say in it? And this is when Tyler, who's always acted a little cagey through the season, has been looking on with some level of concern and goes, It's not mine, she said. She said it over and over. What does that mean? And that's when Ibrahim says that in Islam, the belief is that when a person dies, their soul enters an intermediate state. And that light you saw, that was Em. And what if somehow her death broke the barrier? And Blaine says that's a very bold and spiritual hypothesis for a man of science. And Ibrahim retorts that science is about being open to change when presented with new evidence. Blaine witnessed something he can't explain, and he assigned it a variable based on conjecture. And Blaine again argues that he's a man of conviction who's not going to stand idly by while the gates of hell are at his doorstep. At this point, Wayne and Dana have arrived at the church. They're walking around the side of the building with their guns drawn, and Lester pops out in the back and goes, "Over here, you took long enough." This, of course, alerts every militia person around there, and they all kind of pull guns on them and tell them to drop their weapons, and you hear kind of Lester mumble, "Sorry." They escort the three into the church. Wayne sees Em, and he calls out to her, asking if she's okay. He then threatens to kill Blaine if he does anything to her. Blaine says it's only fitting that the man who ran his father out of town can be here to witness the angels send her back to hell. And Dana chimes in here to stop because Em healed her, like Christ, and she struggles to recall the story of the leper and tells Blaine she put her hands over the gunshot wounds and the stab wounds of hers and healed her. Blaine kind of takes this in for a second and goes, "Well, I guess that makes her special." And then without a beat, just shoots Wayne in the gut, and he falls to the ground. And Blaine continues, "Now she can prove it," as we go to break.
Yeah. There's a lot of little things in here that I think are intriguing, and I'm trying to decide like how in depth I want to get with some of it. But you think about there's actions that Lester's taking, right? That I think will start to, if you start to really think about them, they start to make a little more sense. And you should just see the part of what his plan is and what's going on. I mean, I will say that, Tyler, I think there's an interesting parallel of like two different side characters here. One is Clarice, who you referenced, which is the woman who was actually at the bar in episode 2, who was arguing with Em and starts the fight. And she's saying all this bigoted anti-reviver rhetoric. And then it would make sense then if you're anti-reviver, you're scared of revivers, you don't like what's going on, and then you start to get pulled into the sect of Blaine's preachings. And then what happens? She ends up dead, right? And, we're trying to say something here a little bit about what can happen and getting pulled into these beliefs, this hate, without thinking for yourself, and the indoctrination of what this can be, and it led to a very tragic ending for Clarice. And then the other side of that is you're seeing the indoctrination happening via Tyler. I really wish that we could. There was a whole plan for Tyler in this season, and it all ended up getting cut. And it's really unfortunate because he's not just like the dude that's looking all the time, like, and you kind of see him, and you're like, oh, there must be something special with this guy. And it frustrates me. And I will say it is one of the things in this season that I'm like, damn, like you can feel that we were setting something up that did not happen. And that is unfortunate. I think that there's still a lot of really, really interesting things that can be done with Tyler in season 2 that I would love to reveal. Why he's at the police station, why he is in particular indoctrinated with Blaine's people, and then why he's struggling with something, and seeing Wanda dying and then hearing her saying it's not mine, which is also an important thing to track, is very relevant to a story that originally had a button right here that was going to be very interesting. And I think we're going to have to recontextualize this, or not contextualize it, but rethink what we're going to do with it, because he's a great actor, a really, really great actor that we didn't get to give what was supposed to be there. So that I just apologize for. I don't know what else to say, because you're probably watching, you're a savvy viewer, you're watching, and you're like, oh yeah, they're doing something here, and we didn't, and that sucks. So on us,
you
could
have lied and said you were saving it for.
Yeah, but
he's kind of saying he has the ability to now, though, which is good.
Yeah, it feels like you need it. I think as showrunners, we should have given something in season 1. I really do, because it just feels too incomplete, and so that's one. The other thing that I would love to mention very quickly is in what Blaine's saying. He does say that, let's think about how Blaine is getting these, what we call the passengers, creeps in the comic, what he calls an angel. And so if you look at in in episode 2, excuse me, Jesus Christ, there is no season 2 yet. You see Cooper walking through the woods, and there's all these dream catchers and all this stuff that's like hanging up. Well, if you look in the church, you see those same dream catchers and all this stuff and what's there. And clearly, he had a passenger, had this thing set up in the church. So he's it's almost like he's trying to lead a passenger down a path, if you will, like if you think about it. And then he's got a trap that's set up that Cooper steps into, and it goes up into the air, right? So this was one of his original ways of he was trying to capture one of these creatures. That's what he's doing in episode 2, is he knows they're out there, and he's trying to maybe get another one. Because he says that one came to him through the woods, right? And then he says, in pain, agony, it called out Rose's name. Now, this was like a debate not a debate, but Luke and I talked a lot about, should we say this line or not? Nothing is innocuous. Nothing is random. So that the passenger that he has at his combine, if you will, is combine. That's funny. At his compound, it could be a combine, like of his cohort of weird dudes. But at his compound is Jesse's, right? And Jesse's soul, as we are establishing, these are souls. Jesse's soul is calling out for him to be able to move on with Rose, right? With the death of Rose and what's happening there. So his soul literally leads him to Rose's body in episode 8. So the soul could be calling out Rose's name. Like that could be the case. Or is this, as Ibrahim is saying, confirmation bias? Is he just hearing, Blaine himself appears to clearly have cared about Rose. We still don't have that full story. That is something that is meant to come in the future. And there's more that happened there. But within that, he was, this was a person that he lost that mattered to him, right? That he cared about Rose. So does he just hear something in the woods and think that it's the afterlife because he thinks it's an angel calling out to him and saying Rose's name? Or is it just making these sounds and he's confirmation bias and he's hearing what he wants to hear? He's hearing Rose's name. Or is it tied to Jesse's passenger? And is it actually saying that? We clearly don't see it say words, in this season or anything. So, but anyway, so just there's a lot there. And again, it's like one little sentence, but it does tie into so many ripple effects of things that are existing and going on. So I wanted to mention all those things. Yeah. Oh, Luca. Luca is the name of the actor, by the way, that plays Tyler. I couldn't think of his name. Yeah, it was wonderful.
We're back on Wayne on the ground with Dana consoling him. Em she begins to break the chains. And as she does, Blaine asks Tyler if she got the shot. And he kind of says something like, yeah, she might have needed a bigger dose. And Em has her hands on Wayne's stomach now. Wayne says, take your sister, go. I love you both so much. He's kind of just saying, like, just please get out. I'm fine. And Blaine is shit talking in the background, like, who's the charlatan now? Saying all kinds of stuff to them as nothing seems to be working. That's when Em's tears turn to black. And sure enough, a glow does begin to happen on the wound. And Wayne begins to heal, and this process again takes everything out of Em, who falls to the ground. Ibrahim stands up and pleads with Blaine to uncuff him, let him save her. He has a vial in his pocket that can help her. You say you're not a killer. This is the time to prove it. Blaine says he's sorry, but he can't take that risk, and he points the gun again to shoot at the Cypresses, but takes a bullet himself to the shoulder as gunfire begins to rain in from outside. General Kale and the military are outside surrounding the church. Ibrahim and the Cypress family, Wayne holding him, now duck down and kind of run to a side room to take cover. In this room, they find Lester, who's sitting bound. Ibrahim gives her that vial of water and says this will help, but they have to get her to Moore Creek. Lester says he can take her to his mill, which is downstream from the creek. And we hear calls out to surrender coming from Kale, more gunshots ringing out. And Blaine radios that this is our battle, do not surrender. They have our angel. And During this, they agree to let Lester take Em. Wayne says, I will deal with the general. She's his problem. Telling Dana, you get Cooper and you get your sister Weld and get the hell out of Wausau. And they all do escape out the basement here. At this point, the military does breach the doors and marches in, and Kale enters and yells out, where is she? I'll jump just to one more bit here till we in this kind of sequence. We cut to the river area, and Dana and Lester are carrying Em through the woods. They come to Lester's truck, and he gives Dana the keys to it. She tells Em to get her strength back. She's going to run get Cooper, and then they're out of here. And they do part ways. A funny little aside look here from No Carbs Lester when Em mumbles that they can split a donut on the way. Yeah. We're now on General Kale on the telephone having to answer for why they could not recover the reviver, and Wayne is in the back of her vehicle just smiling, knowing that the girls did get away from the military. The head soldier mentions that their mission's not over, and Kale says it's delayed, not over. And Wayne from the car says, let me get this straight. You lose all the revivers, and in an effort to get them back, you mow down 12 civilians in a church, and you're the one who cleans up messes? So, but before Kale can retort to him, she gets a radio relay saying that there is something she's got to see. She asks what it is, to which the soldier replies, I think we found one.
I just want to say that you guys have taught me something, and that is when they talk about getting a donut later, I was like, oh, well, this is going to be terrible. Because every time they talk about doing something sweet together, somebody explodes or something.
That's funny.
So thanks.
That's
for
TV.
That.
That's just TV in general. So now it's been ruined. Now you'll watch it in other TV shows. Yeah. It's all the time. Like you have to get them to a good place in order to break them down. You know. So, goodness. I mean, I will say there was consideration of. I think some people thought we were going to kill Wayne here. And that was never part of the equation for us because Wayne's arc is not done. So that's what I'll say. Like, I think, we have now beat him up, and we're leaving him in a bad place at the end of this episode, end of the season. But I think if he died there, that would have felt, I don't know, it would have felt cheapened to me. There's more that needs to be done and said with Wayne. And he has more layers to him. And I also will say that I believe that the affair and the things with Diane and Patty and all this, there's more layers to that as well. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a really fun thing to explore, in season 2. When we talked about the sequence, in the church and what's happening, it was with Noelle, who was one of our lead writers. We constantly referenced this as the Jurassic Park moment where like you're scared of the raptor and then all of a sudden the T-Rex comes in to eat the raptor. So it's like the other bad thing comes in that's going to help there. I would also say like, if you wonder how the general got there, figured out where to go, and there's plenty of ways that they could. They're monitoring comms, as they said. But there's also a dude who might want to mess up things that are going on who makes a lot of phone calls and talks about people on properties and stuff. And so I think that if you start to really break it down, I think that Lester might be trying to make something happen here.
I did start to break it down last week, the whole afternoon. We'll get to that later.
On top of the fact that Blaine is also saying, I mean, not where he is, but specifically just that what he is doing. So there's elements to it, but yeah.
Everything got recontextualized when the dots got connected to the big bad. But before we hit these next two scenes, I do want to spotlight just these next two locations. First, the grist mill, hell of a location with the dam, with the water wheel and all. And just after that, we're going to see Jeannie's place, which looks so perfectly what one would imagine Jeannie's house would look like. And was that a mostly as is fine, like the Mama Check place, or no?
I believe so. Yes, I believe. I mean, they added rearranging, but yeah.
They did added some trinkets. Like I do remember talking to Josh and Chloe, who's our production designer and art director, about just adding like weird trinkets. Like my mom used to collect precious moments back in the day and stuff. So there's a lot of like odd little weird things that are there that old people collect. I'll never understand it.
Did she have any Hummels? Any Hummels?
Oh my God!
No, that's
my grandpa.
But it's
My grandma had
So
Hummel.
the precious moments are the Christian Hummel is basically what that is. It's just a super religious version of the Hummel.
Yeah.
Is all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say the mill that you see there is the same mill that is in the comic. So the reference that Mike used in
nice.
This is the exact same mill in Wisconsin. So that was really cool. That was really cool to do.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you grabbed that as a stock shot, but either way, it looked.
No, it was we got someone to shoot that.
Cool.
And there's a bunch of that's done in Wausau. So we have a drone operator in Wausau. And that was a bunch of stuff, which was really, really great.
Are those like overhead shots, like when they're going through the city? Is that Wausau, or is that where you guys?
It's Wausau.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we see a decent number of them in this one. Inside the mill, we do see Lester bring her a drink and tell her to rest up. He has her lay on the couch and puts a blanket on her and tells her, I'm going to go check and make sure we were not followed. We are now in Jeannie's place. Dana is there to fetch Cooper, who is sitting and reading a comic. Jeannie tells Dana he's been like this since I picked him up, not talking, like the joy's just gone right out of him. Dana says he's been through so much, but thank you for looking after him. Dana takes a call from Lester. He tells her that Em is okay. Says she tells him that we'll be there soon, but he goes, nah, hold off because there's still a bunch of soldiers down by the creek, so don't worry, she's safe and sound here. Dana says okay and call as soon as it's all clear. Yeah. Now, on Kale at the creek, we hear the sounds of a passenger. She asks what happened, and one of the soldiers says that that's how they found it. We think it's Wanda Peterson's. Kale leans down and says, Alert Alpha, our exit timeline just got accelerated. The soldier asks, what about the sheriff? She says you can actually let him go. We actually do not need him anymore. And we do see a reverse shot on a passenger that is laying on the ground looking like when E.T. was sick and shit. And Kale continues that they will not be going home empty-handed after all. We cut back to Jeannie's place, and we hear her babbling off screen while getting Cooper's things together. Another little Indiana Pacer mention slid in there. And we see Dana kind of wandering around.
Bucks.
Yeah, no. They lost to the Pacers again. But Dana's kind of wandering around the living room, screwing around with the trinkets, and she comes across a book called Banks of the Broken Creek by none other than Aaron Weimer. And Jeannie walks in, and Dana asks, where did you get this book? She says, oh, that was a snoozer about water, but some people seem to like it. He even did a speech about it. Dana says, wait, you've seen an Aaron Weimer lecture? And Jeannie says, yeah, I even have it on a tape around here somewhere. Dana asks immediately, can I see it? We do quickly cut back to Em at this point and just see her start to walk around the mill, looking around at stuff. And back in Jeannie's, they're watching this lecture now on a videotape in which Aaron speaks of the healing processes of water, or properties, of water. Dana asked, why do you have this? And Jeannie says, it's all Lester stuff. The tape suddenly switches over now to one of their sex tapes, Jeannie and Lester, which confuses Cooper and horrifies Dana and all of us. And they try to turn it off quickly, but as they do, Dana catches Lester's chest, which has the pointy pentagram-like symbol carved into him that Em had drawn in her book. She rewinds it a few seconds to confirm that it is indeed that symbol. And Jeannie says, oh, I hate that thing. He's like Irish or Celtic or something. And Dana connects many dots here. And we cut back to Em in the mill, who does look freaked out and turns as she hears the sound of something like a passenger as we go to break.
Yeah, I love this. I love this sequence in the sense that, you know, we worked hard to make it so that Dana and Em could effectively find out who the killer was at basically the same time. And, you know, we thought it'd be fun to kind of intercut that. And Aaron had this incredible idea to reveal it to Dana through a sex tape. We knew that the book would be there for sure. And then it's just like, okay, are we really going to do this? And then it was fun. I got to do the sequence with Lester and Jeannie in the bedroom. That was riot.
She'd been bragging about their personal life a few times throughout the season, so it's not unlikely that would be a thing.
Yeah, and both Peter and Lenore were like, they were ready to go. They were so excited. They were just like, and I was trying to be like, listen, this is just, you know, we can be modest about it. And they're like, no. Like, Lenore's throwing the covers off of her, and she's like, let's go. And she's like doing all these huge grand gestures.
Yeah, we've established we're both freaks. It's all good.
That's right. And Lester is dressed as a cowboy. It's harder to see a little bit, but that is a cowboy role play going on there. So that's the gun.
That explains the gun, at least. Yeah. I didn't notice the hat.
Why does he have a gun? Why is he? That's what's going on there. Yes.
And then you had her say,
Yeah, yes. And then we have Lenore's and the voice of Rogue say, "Come here, sugar," which
Oh, I didn't
was
even catch that.
yes,
Yeah.
which was I was very proud of that moment.
yeah,
Little X-Men,
Yeah.
X-Men 97 shout out.
yeah.
Don't hurt us, Disney, please.
So much of this was like trying to construct something that, hopefully you can hold the reveal. Like originally, I think in one of the first cuts, I'm like, Lester looks way too guilty already when you see him helping her. And again, Pelican-eyed viewers might notice, it's at last episodes, we got to come back to this, might notice that when Lester's giving her water, right? So they are at the creek. They're at the water down from the creek, right? So it's moving to the mill. He also picks up a water bottle that's there. So he's probably not giving her, the full on be for particular 100% healthy water, right? So she's still kind of in an in-between state. And Ibrahim, did give her something. So she's, doing better, but is enough to, it's like, Lester has a particular plan. He also doesn't want her to be full strength, because if she's full strength, I think that could complicate pretty quickly, what's going on with him. So if he can keep her a little weak, that's important. But he also is supposed to give her some water. It's supposed to look good. And that's supposed to be like, oh, he's helping her, and I think the water from the creek helps, he knows what helps, but there's a bottle of water sitting there on the table. So it's just a little subtle thing. Also, cool thing for season 2. Nobody's noticed this yet, I don't think, so we'll say it here, but when Ibrahim is dealing with Em in the back room, you see him take a vial and he starts to scoop up her black tears. So very deliberate to make sure we got that shot, because that is something that is going to happen and deal with in season 2. So he's got some of the black tears to know he got to study shit. So, Ibrahim's going to study some shit and what those mean and where that's going to go. So I think that's something. But yeah, this was a hard thing to do the cross cut and figure out the timing and, what was here and how we were going to do this reveal. But we always wanted to get to a point where you're like, okay, so Blaine's out of the picture. We still don't know who's going on. And then the second you find out that, because, the book could have been a little bit of a reveal, and we tried to kind of pull back. We actually pulled back dialogue where it's like, oh, that's Lester's book. And I was like, no, don't say Lester's name yet. Like, hold this as long as you can and allow the sex tape to be the case. There's also, Shawn alluded to there being multiple sex tapes. I don't know that that's the case, but if you want to believe that,
No,
Shawn,
I said
fine.
I said it would make
one
sense.
Of, you said one
do.
of.
Yeah.
You said one of, which is just really funny to me. So that means they have multiple. So I don't want to know.
I don't think he makes one cowboy role play.
You don't do one sex tape.
If you're in
Nobody
cowboy mode, you've done a few sex tapes. That's not.
I think that's a safe assumption.
He needs the station just offering up all kinds of information about their private lives.
Yeah, so funny. Well, and also you start to think about, like, is that a real relationship, or is Lester always wanting to be close to the police department to understand what's going on and know about the things that are happening? There's like, you start to, if you another, rewatch, look at what he's saying, look at all the things that he's doing, look at how he's inserting himself throughout the entire season, and he shows up at very specific times for very specific reasons and has very specific things that he wants to give the police information about, and also maybe redirect them in very specific ways, right? So, and I think a good example of that really is going to be in episode 5, when he's like, I got more to tell you, Sheriff, you need to listen to me. So it was fun. But to do all this and then reach a point where that revelation can happen with Dana, and then the second that happens, you find out that Em is in the lion's den. And that was always going to be, one of the ways that was going to happen was you're going to see the mask, was actually how we were going to do it, but the timing. And we actually have some pretty cool looking shots of her like looking around. Mm-hmm. If you pause, by the way, and look at what she's looking at, it's all these old Lester books and posters. And again, Josh and Chloe, like our team, we've not talked about our team enough, are just phenomenal. Yeah. Phenomenal. Like Art Team for Life. They've done so much on this show, constantly elevating what was on the page, the dissecting stuff in the comic to like make it even more like the comic and scenarios that I didn't even think we could do. Just really, really went above and beyond across the board, and love them to death. And we'll always want to work with them. And but they made so many cool Lester things that are just the history of, because originally there was like a longer sequence and then it getting cut down. So then they kind of just place it all, there. But then she also walks over to a table and there's all kinds of like ritual shit on this table. And we didn't show that table, but that table will be shown in season 2. I can just tell you, like, for sure, because Dana's going to need to go and investigate what the hell is this ritual and all this stuff and what's going on. But what was going to happen was Em was going to walk over, she sees the mask at the same time that Dana is seeing the pentagram type thing on his chest. That's just he's Celtic. That's all. Such a genius thing. So fun.
There was one setup that I wish we still were able to have, but the flow didn't work right. But the moment where Dana picks that book up, there was supposed to be a moment in episode 2, and we shot it, where Dana picks up, she's the book in Em's dorm room, because the book is sitting next to the bathtub in the pilot. So Em had Aaron's book, and then there's a scene where Dana looks at it and sees Aaron and is like, douchebag, and puts it down. Just like, so you see, you originally you were supposed to see that book and have Dana pick that up, and then that gets paid off in this scene where she picks it up. So she's technically kind of knew what it was quicker than normally you would. But yeah, that scene just didn't quite flow as well, so we kind of took it out. But it was a fun setup and payoff that I wish we could have had. There
is a line that I think, I don't know if it happened yet, if we got there, but it's where someone says, Blaine, I think, said, life is lived forward but understood backwards.
Oh yeah, you're jumping ahead. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, anyway, that's how I feel about this show.
So, I love that line. Yeah, that was a fun line. Like, that to me, it's also a throwback to a line that Lester says when he's at the jazzercise class. And at the end of that class, he's talking about how we're understanding life, and that, like, oh shit, what does he say there? But basically there's a parallel to that line at the end of the jazzercise class in episode whatever that is, 4, I think. And then what he's saying here. And it's kind of alluding to his views on life and what's there. Yeah, I always like that line.
So you guys, it still was a well done, in my opinion. Dana figures it out. Audience figures it out. Em turns to see something as you cut the break. So we have all figured it out. So as we all came back from break to see, we are back on Em walking toward a barn door where the sound grows louder and a purple light is emanating from within. And that is when we do hear, "Hello, Martha." And Lester calls out from behind. Em turns and he's sitting behind her in the open room on what we'll learn is like the edge of a big tub. He's robed, chest and symbol exposed, deer mask in hand. She says, "It was you. You killed me." And Lester debates the technicality of whether it was him or Aaron. Em says, she should return the favor. And he says, "You can kill me, but then you'll never know the truth." The water from the creek helps her. It's one of the few places on Earth where the membrane between oblivion and awareness is thinnest, and it flows through this very mill. Please let him help her. And she asks, why the hell would she trust him? Because I need you, because the world needs you. She's asking, why did I have to die? And he says, that was all Aaron. He picked you. Your death could fix his infidelity and his wife's cancer, but he tried to make it look like a suicide, but he was sloppy, and he tried to cut Lester out. He says, he did his best to tie up loose ends. We do get a couple of flashes of Brent, of Dana being shot and things like that. And he does apologize for the collateral damage in reference to Dana, but he has to see it all through. And Em says, so that's what this was all about? So your old ass doesn't have to die? And Lester says it's about eternal life for all. And she berates him and gets in his face, but it's still pretty weak here. And Lester says that they did not know what would work, but they needed a vessel, a young woman capable of creating life. Through her death, it would allow them to open the door. They saw a light coming, and they knew they were right. We see flashes of the night Aaron was drowning Em. Lester, again, fearful that he would take the light to his wife. He knocks him over, as we had seen previously, and does finish the job. and he asks for forgiveness, for losing his temper. He says that her death and Rose's death, they brought life. It reunited families. She says, no, she's not special. He used her. And he reiterates, no, this was you're more than just a key. You were a detonator that started Revival Day. And she begins to threaten him, but he asks if she wants to see it. And pardon me. He says he couldn't let Blaine take this one. It wasn't his, it's hers. This will make you whole. And she asks what it is. That's when he does fully open the barn doors and tell her, it's your soul, Martha. And we do see the large purple glowing passenger as we hit the act break.
Yeah, I will mention that as she's walking across the wall, just dragging her hand across, it is yellow there. And then she puts her hand on the fence, the door, and then it turns purple. So it is connecting to her in some way.
Reacting.
And, what that all means, I think some people have debated that, and I know some people have been confused at it. But I think that what we're trying to say is, and I think we've said this like too many goddamn times in this series, but is Em's special, and like literally it's said again and again and again and again and again from everyone, from the day she was born, right? Like they don't, something was wrong, was there, Patty had cancer, and then she has a baby, and there's all kinds of stuff from there all the way through her life, and had been dealt a tough hand and a tough draw of it, with the OI and all. But there is something special about her. And then her passenger, every reviver has a passenger. Her passenger is different than everyone else's, just like she is different than the other revivers. And so I think at a baseline, I think that's just a good place to be and understand that. As far as what's there. And yeah, there's, we want to give some answers. There's a lot of re-edits of this and thinking about what to do and how many flashbacks you want to show and what's there. And, I'm not usually a big fan of flashbacks, but I do think there are so many answers that needed to be clarified that I think, from Lester's perspective, like he's gaslighting. I mean, he is creating a narrative that makes sense for him for his goal, right? Like that's pretty nefarious. And when you think about all the things that have happened and what he's put people through, like Lester's not a good dude, like pretty awful. And so, but he is also a good villain is someone who believes that they have goals and they have a sense of right and wrong in their own head. They're able to justify their actions in a particular way. And I think he's trying to justify this. Like, I do think he genuinely cares about Wanda. I think that's real. I think there are things. I think he looks at the death of, yes, some people had to die, but he was a soldier, right? And that's referenced in previously as well. And, and I think he probably, I talked with Peter about this, it was like, look, when you would go to war, you would shoot across that line and people would die, but it was for a greater good. And I think in his mind, he does believe this is a greater good, but at the same time, it's horribly selfish, and I think that complexity is what makes a good villain, and what's there. And I want to give a lot of credit to Peter Millard and I think in how he does that and pulls that off. And then, he has a wonderfully improvised line of a pusillanimous mendicant that he added. And I was like, I like it. Let me Google search what that means.
Right.
And then we can put it in there. Which was a lot of fun. But the other thing I'll say, and I mentioned this on a podcast recently too, Lester is not the end all be all of everything. This is a guy, and it's mentioned via Em even kind of touches on it. He touches on it. They didn't quite know what was going to happen. And I think there was, whether or not they set out to murder Rose, I think remains to be seen. I think there was some level of they knew they needed a woman capable of creating life, right? Mm-hmm. So that was part of like a youthful age, female, reproductive opportunity. And then, but within that, I think they were trying to figure some stuff out. So there could be a bit of an unreliable narrator to Lester. So just don't take everything as gospel. But he is saying correctly that this is your soul, Martha, and that these are the souls of revivers. So, but yeah, ton to unpack, answer questions beyond that. But yeah.
I have a question. So were Lester and Wanda just friends, or can we expect sex tapes in season 2?
In the jazzercise outfit. with Blaine's monologue going over it. It's really weird.
Good.
It's like an odd thing.
That's actually right up my alley. Yeah.
Birthday Liz.
I don't know where to go from there.
yeah, that was
no. We do come back to the same scene. We're back on Lester revealing the passenger to Em again, opening those barn doors. He tells her to follow it to the water, and it does start to walk its way to the middle of the room to the round pool, and they watch as the passenger enters into the water and slowly does sink in. And he tells her it's a lot to take in, but she is special, and if she ventures in, he'll prove it. Em now sees Patty kind of standing in the water, calling to her. We overhear many Patty lines, not that she's saying them verbally, but we're hearing her saying things like, I forgive you, it'll be okay, in a very nurturing way at this point. And she goes to reach out, and they do embrace, and Patty pulls her down into the water, and we actually see Patty disappear at this point. And what is actually happening, we, the audience, now see Lester in the mask holding her down in the water, much like he did to Rose and to Em previously. And purple electric bolts like things are kind of going in and out of the water as her soul is sort of remerging with her. And at this point, Dana walks in and yells, Lester, and shoots him in the back. He turns, and she shoots a few more times, but he's still standing. And the symbol on his chest exposed now is glowing purple as well. And the eyes of the mask even have a little flash of purple. He charges at Dana, grabs her by the throat, and she manages to knock off the mask. And his eyes are full on glowing too here. When suddenly something pierces Lester from behind and drops him. And we see him standing with the motherfucker's heart in her hand. She looks at Dana and says, something's wrong, and then collapses into her sister's arms. Dana says she does not know what to do, but Em says it's okay. Em now begins to emit the purple light from her eyes, from her mouth, and we get a montage of moments between them from the season. Again, that flash of young Dana handing her the book and things. Em appears now to just disappear in this big flash of purple light. And we kind of go to black for a second, and it's later, and we're hearing Wayne yell, she's over here. He comes over to Dana, and from her POV, we do see him over her say a couple of times, where's Martha? And we'll cut there to talk about it because we come back to a whole different animal.
I'm so sorry. I watched a TikTok video the other day where they were talking about auras. And this just popped back in my head. And the purple one is maybe this, you can say no, but is like people who have a purple aura are supposedly closer to their higher consciousness and spirituality and stuff like that. Did this have anything to do? Did you see this TikTok video before you?
Yeah, I can say I did not see this TikTok.
Okay.
But you can say you're aware of you didn't just pick random colors for the aura colors. I assume.
Yes, I mean
there's a reason for it. Yeah,
and there's hints and stuff too. There's a reason that we don't have, but there's stuff in the season that cardinal-eyed viewers could probably maybe pick up on. But yeah, I don't know. Should we break this whole sequence down? Because there's a lot, and I've seen a lot.
I think we should.
Yeah.
People seem to be confused at times, and it's not meant to be completely clear. I mean, I will say, it's meant to be like this overwhelming. Like, wait, what's going on? I need to what's happening here. But yes, I think we should. I think it's a good place to have it. So some
everything after this is an epilogue. So let's get into it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've just heard Lester tell us that he was seeking a way to extend his life. Aaron had some information. They were working together. They knew that they needed to have these vessels, and they didn't know exactly what was going to happen. For some, then Aaron takes Em of his own volition as a subject without telling Lester, and Lester's pissed off. He's trying to take this thing that he has been researching for years and years. I mean, Lester, based on Jack LaLanne, by the way, in the comic, who was this fitness guru who was obsessed with just extending your life through fitness specifically. But he has these books that's like, one of his books was Live Young Forever. Mm-hmm. Like there's just an obsession there. That's Lester. He's made his career, he's made his money on finding ways to extend life, and that's what he wants to do. So he thinks he's figured this out. Who knows how long he's been looking at this. And so turns out that something is different about Em. So where he was going to just consume the soul through this ritual, she basically went supernova. And he doesn't know why. He knows that something was different about Em. And now here he is in this moment. He has managed to get her back into what he was building, this well that he was building to do this in a more constructive way, more controlled environment that he could do this ritual. He's got her there, and he's going to try it again. He's basically going to do what he intended to do, because he didn't get the eternal life. All these other dead people came back to life. So he needs to get her into the water. So how's he going to do that? He's going to essentially convince her somehow, because she has to do it. You hear him say she has to basically accept the passenger back to her. And we've seen that over and over again. It was Jordan who approached her passenger. It was Jesse who approached his passenger and says, now I'm ready. So we've sort of established this rule. He needs Em to do that as well, so that he can take what she has. So he needs to get her into the water. He's going to make it seem like this is some big altruistic thing. Now, like Aaron was saying, to a certain degree, he probably believes that, right? He's got to tell himself that at the very least. But we know what he wants, and he's going to try to convince Em to do that. The big advantage he has is that Em has been beaten to a core, to a nub. You know what I mean? Like she's there, she's weak, she's dying. And on top of all that, he has her passenger, the very thing that he needs to be able to do this. He's got it there. And that passenger is desperate to reconnect with her. I mean, they're not meant to be together. We call it the passenger because it's part of it. It's part of the being.
Not meant to be separated.
Not meant to be separated. Thank you. It is calling out to her to reunite, just like Ibrahim said. And so that feeling, just like Ibrahim says, I believe in 9, that there's a presence there. There's something. There's a telekinetic connection between the soul and the host, and they need to be together. So that is to Lester's advantage, and it goes into the water. It turns itself into whatever it turns itself into, and then Em in her state sees her mother, which is a little different than the last time we've seen her mother. Her mother before was sort of this manifestation of her grief, but this time it's a manifestation of her soul telling her that she can be at peace. That if you come to me, this can all be over. We can be together. The soul and her can be together, and all this can stop. And Lester is going to take advantage of that, and he's going to basically, once she's in there, once she's in the water, he can then actually complete the ritual.
Yeah, wonderful summary, Luke. Great job. And I think, to add to that, a couple things. So like if you look at with Rose, when they were drowning Rose and she starts to die, she starts to drown, you start to see something come out of her, right? It's a yellow glowy substance. And then they're like, oh my God, this is something supernatural. This is actually working. And then they go to try to he's trying to scoop it up, and he can't, right? And so Lester is building an apparatus in which to control, so it doesn't just dissolve into that creek and just move out. If he can control it in a smaller space in this pool, this allows him to okay, now I've got the soul trapped. It's essentially a soul cage. in a way, right? So I can have it trapped in this water, and then that allows me the opportunity to whatever I want to do with it. I don't know. He wants to cannonball into the thing, he wants to backflip, whatever, consume it, whatever he wants to do. He has his opportunity. He is separated soul from body. And then we could not afford the Death Cab song to play here.
We tried.
And then, because I did ask, and then that's going to be there. And then, so that's, and if you see the passengers when they're coming out of the water, right, they're just bubbling up. They're kind of building. So when they're in the water, just imagine they kind of melt down. And that's what's happening when the passengers going in. It's melting down into this pool, and it's, kind of, so now you've got, okay, I've got the soul in a controlled space. And if I can, then it's going to want to go into Em. But if I can kill her in here, there's a way I can pull it into myself and this, right? And he kind of does. It's interrupted. So, and if you watch when his arms are over her, you're seeing it move up his arms, toward him. So he's getting a little bit of that life, but not quite enough. And that's why he was able to be shot and he could still move forward. That's why you see the eyes glowing. And then when Em pulls out the heart, then you see the purple in his eyes goes away, right? So it's like starting to move through him, but then that dies. We also just watched, Katie and I just watched Last Mohicans last night, and I want to believe that this was me doing like a Mogwai thing, not Mogwai, Mogwai thing. Yeah. When he pulls the Graybeard's heart out, it's pretty badass in Last Mohicans. Also one of the best scores ever. But anyway, I'm wondering if it's parallel to that. But so that's understanding kind of like the soul piece of this, and then the Patty piece of this, as Luke was mentioning. There's a lot. Anytime you hear someone talk, hearing a reviver talk, they're saying something is missing, right? Damon Manning is saying this in the episode 4, I believe it is, when he's talking to Nella in like the reviver support group, right? And they feel like something's off. Wanda says it at the beginning there as well. There's something that feels like it's pulling them. And originally we had a scene actually with Damon Manning and a passenger as well. So another connection that we ended up cutting, but we were going to play with that. But luckily we can have him back in season 2 because he's a great actor, Pat Thornton. But also named after my brother. Damon Matthews. They wouldn't let me call him Damon Matthews, and I had to make it Damon Manning. So there, what it is that their soul is a representation of the things they need, right? For them to heal, right? And Jordan, really needed to be loved, needed to be accepted in what's there. Like after she's passed, and the people who showed her that were the Cypresses, and Ibrahim and Cooper and Dana, who were so kind to her, and that gave her a place. But she was always kind of drawn to it. You're being pulled. It's a tractor beam in a way that's pulling you. And when you see the tent and it's putting its hand on the tent, and she's like bringing her hand up, and they don't quite understand, but there is like a telekinetic connection. And in my mind, when you see Jesse walking, he walks right to that car and it stops right in front of that car. Like it's telling him open. And then he's like, oh my God, blue cutlass. Right. And why? Because that's what he needed. And Uncle Don is saying that to him. This is what you need to move on. So when you take all of that context, what does Em need? What does Em need more than anything? Look at all the guilt and the trauma and the pain in episode 9 when she's talking about the night that Patty died. And that is being manifested in a psychotic break where you're seeing Patty there. Well, now she needs her mother, her dead mother, to forgive her, right? Like that's it. Like I need to be relinquished of the guilt and the shame that she has carried, and all this weight and traumatic weight that she's carried for these years. And this is, and if you listen to everything Patty's saying, it's saying, you're okay. It's okay. I forgive you. Like come here. It's all like, you're okay. Like, it's fine. Like, don't get caught up in all this. And then, so that's her passenger, her soul calling out to her. And we're hearing kind of what it is she's hearing. Now, there's other layers of this too, if we get too much more in the weeds, but I will say you cut to Lester when he's watching, you see purple light on Lester, and then you don't see the purple light that's there. There's some things here that, like, what Lester's seeing, we're not seeing what Lester's seeing that's happening in the water. There might be something abyss style, shit going on there. I will just say maybe, possibly, that's happening over there. But for Em, she's seeing her mother, right? Lester is not seeing her mother. I'm going to just say that definitively. He's seeing something very different.
Yeah,
and,
I thought that was kind of clear. When
yeah.
The audience
Well,
was
I mean,
seeing
just
it, but
in
then
case.
Lester, when we cut over, he's actually just drowning her, not.
Yeah. So once she goes under, it's like, okay, now I can let it. It's going to want to move into her, and now if I'm holding, I can get it to move into me, and what's there. So, and then when you get to, so anyway, that's that lot there. But every phone call, when you're like, who's the other person? It's Lester. Lester has the money, has the means, to pay for these different things that were going on. So that was part of this, was like, who could have handled it? Who could have paid the $10,000 for Brent's, family's, his mother's stuff like that? Lester, who has the money, has the means, all of this. And it was not Brent's twin brother, Brant. So that can finally be put to rest.
Wolf-eared listeners would have heard that when they do one of the flashes of Brent saying, like, on the phone, or Aaron on the phone, you do hear Lester on the other end go, "So be it." So that, to Aaron's point, that was always Lester. So we do get a little.
Yeah, we meant to. That was the one time I was like, we got to do that. Add that line in. Yeah.
So that should clear up any confusion if people had it. I didn't know that many people had it.
Yeah,
you guys were live on social media the night of the sci-fi airing. So. Yeah, no, it was.
Well, it's good is somebody can come back, and if they want to know, like, the answers exist. So if this goes to a wider audience, as we hope that the show will, and then they come back and they listen to this podcast, there you go. I
want to know what Damon Manning's arc was that got the passenger to him. Like, he finally had, like, the perfect cut of steak or something, and then like, save that for season 2 though, because we haven't seen him get his passenger. So
correct. Yeah, and that's a fun thing, is that passengers still exist, in season 2. So there's stories to be and a fun thing to explore of what it's like to be separated from your soul and understand that. And so if you even know that, what does that mean? Do I want to reconnect? Do I want to stay back? Like, what does that mean? Do I need it? It needs me, but maybe I want to fight against that. There's just interesting, conflict and opportunities to be had with the passenger-reviver relationship going forward.
So we do come back to what is an epilogue here, starting with an intertitle card reading 35 days later. On a TV screen, we see Mayor Dillish talking on Good Morning Wausau. The host asks them, with Reviver still among us, how can we be sure we're still safe? And Ken cuts that off and says they are not the problem. His wife's a Reviver. No one should be made to feel unsafe or unwelcome being who they are. And he mentions that the governor's trying to pass a bill that ensures the rights of all revitalized citizens. I don't know if that's the new term, now that Reviver might have a stink on it. Revitalized citizens. But he adds that a special committee has even been established to look into this unauthorized military operation. And he reassures Wausau is safe. We find out this TV is on at Dana's place, and she's getting Cooper ready for school in the morning. Cooper says he really misses Em, and she mentions that after school, they're going to talk to a doctor, a therapist, and we're also going to finish unpacking his room tonight. And he says, you should be the one to do that since we're staying here now. And at this point, the school bus honks and outside, and Cooper exits. We're now on Wayne at the station. He's boxing up his desk. JP walks in, and Wayne tells him he's going to be exactly what this town needs. JP says it's only an interim role. We'll see what happens in the runoff election. And Wayne asks what the ladder and the bullpen's about. And for those crested canary-eyed viewers, we got to all have one more bird reference here, who have noticed our Aaron, his favorite arc of the whole program in the background. JP does say that his first order of business is fixing that leak Dana had complained about. Turns out it actually started right here in your office. And Wayne hands him the sheriff's badge and shakes hands with him before he exits as well. Ibrahim enters Dana's house. He has a box of donuts for her. She asks if he's ready for his first day, Professor, and he reminds her that it's just a short-term residency. Dana asides that that's a relief because the last Cypress Professor thing didn't end very well. But it does keep him closer to Moore Creek as he continues his studies, and she asks if that's the only thing keeping him close to here. He nervously says he doesn't want to be late on his first day and goes to exit. She calls his name and he quickly pops back in. She says we should do it again sometime. Ibrahim agrees, but still heads out. Dana walks back to the table and we see a box labeled Martha on it. She pulls out Em's notebook and opens it. We do see some pages of her drawings, a travel pamphlet from Myrtle Beach, and we get a quick flash of Dana from years back in that skeleton hoodie, as we mentioned, becoming what would become Em's gear, and she's handing that booklet to a young Em. Many pages later, Dana comes upon one of Em's poems, and we go to a break here as we hear this poem read over Em with scenes of Rhodey writing lyrics in his van, over Blaine, who's doing his radio show in his shed, over Nithya receiving some radiation treatment for her cancer, and finally over Wayne visiting Patty Cypress's grave as we do cut.
Yeah, let's go like beat by beat here. So first, 35 days. So one of the things that Luke and I unlocked here that really helped us a lot when we were writing 10 was just a parallel to the pilot. Mm-hmm. So it's, you have this like tease in the pilot and then it cuts to 35 days later. And what's the aftermath of this? So we've got all this craziness that's going to happen at the gristmill. And then we cut to 35 days later, right? So at the same time, we cut to Dana's house the same way we do there. And then it's Dana getting ready with Cooper. It's actually shot the exact same way. The same revelations, except for you see Cooper when he startles her the same way. They're listening to Good Morning Wausau the same way, right? And they're talking about the events that we just saw and kind of giving this exposition dump, through this show of what's where we're at and setting the stage. But it is like exactly the same, and how those are done in a fun parallel. And then, the scene with Ibrahim, I thought there was something great. That was actually a scene that literally was written, I think like 36 hours or 48 hours before we shot it. And it was a first draft and that was it. And I was like, here we go. And it looks like I love it. And I'm like, I don't know, and then they had to shoot it immediately. And I think it worked. But in the end now, I think works really nice and but within that, she's referencing at the end of 2, there's a moment where they're in the cars and we should do this again sometime. And it's like, do what again, and like, so that line comes back around. And then in particular, it's like, dent a car and don't leave a note, which is the first thing that happens with them together where they dent a car and he's like, shouldn't we leave a note? And she's like, shut up, and pulls him, and I think that is, and if you think about that and what that means, like the very first time she's meeting Ibrahim, she's pulling him into an uncomfortable situation, asking him to break the law, right? And to ignore his base instincts of like trying to be good and like, no, shouldn't we do this or whatever? And then it's going to go, through this whole thing and what's there. So, which is nice, but we wanted to, the will they, won't they, it's just a lot of meet cutes this season. I think is definitely something that, cause they start out pretty hot and heavy. And then it's about kind of deconstructing that and like, will this happen again, and where it's going. And I think it's left in a good place for that. Yes, I'm very proud of the silly water droplet arc that's there too, which was always a thing that, happens in the big shows. And we fought to kind of keep this little thing that was there and understanding that this leak that is a representation of Dana's frustrations in the police station, frustrations with her job and her work and everything that's there. And, Dana's arc, really, this season is about Em. And Dana's arc, which is much more minimal in comparison, is starting with her wanting to leave and now her realizing that the answers exist in Wausau and she wants to stay, and Cooper frustrated that he had to pack up and now he has to unpack, and what's going on. And when you see, the water stain, which is representative of her state, and how she's viewing where she's stuck and what's going on. And, she just keeps complaining about it, never gets fixed. And then it turns out that issue is now being fixed, right? So that she can stay, right? That's there. But then at the same time, it also originated with her father, right? Which it very much did. And then and I love that when we were playing with this, and I was like, this might feel too heavy-handed if we don't, reference it. Let's let JP tell you, David, and then David, you're just going to chuckle, like of course it is. Like it's always my fault, like it's always my fault, which I think was a fun way, and I like the way he played that. And yeah, I mean, I think JP was the right person. I know some people might have wanted Dana to be sheriff, but JP's been there for a while. He's a steady guy in the background who deserves more, and he's a great character.
Trust. Dana's pointed out a couple times. He's a trustworthy one in the department. Exactly.
And Dana's also kind of gone rogue and done some stuff. Even though she has good instincts, she's right. She is still the person that is kicking down the door rather than knocking on the door.
Not to quote Brent Gunderson, but don't replace a Cypress who breaks rules with another Cypress who breaks the rules.
I was going to say that she's also a Cypress, and probably the town right now has not got a lot of faith in Cypresses. So.
Yeah. But Glenn Gould's a great actor, and we wish we could have had more with JP. So it's going to be fun to set up some stuff with him, and what's there. But yeah, there's a lot of parallels to the pilot in here, and very, very overt, pieces of this. And you're also, I said the last thing I'll mention is that you're also seeing the hoodie and the origin of the hoodie, that this was Dana's, and we know that Dana's donating it, and she's wanting to get it out of here when we first see her. But it's also, something that was significant to Em, like in what's there. And she looked up to her sister, and then in the car, in one, she says, we were going to go to the beach. It's like, I really wanted to, I thought you would never leave Myrtle Beach. And you see that there's a pamphlet for Myrtle Beach, right? So, there was this idea that they were going to go to the beach together, and she never got to go. And Dana had Cooper and lifed, and was there. And then
Lane went in her stead.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing.
Have you ever been to Myrtle Beach?
I have.
So you guys want to know the real reason why Myrtle Beach is still in my head, and it actually ties back to Shawn. Shawn and I, quick side story. Shawn and I and a friend. Oh, you don't? You
might ring a bell here.
And a mutual friend named Amy Garvin. We were going to run away from school. We were going to run away from home when we were in high school. And we had planned to run away. We were going to go to Myrtle Beach. And we were all going to run away. And we got pretty far in our planning with this. I had packed a bag and everything. And then our mutual horrible friend, he's a despicable person named Josh Klein. I don't mind saying his name. He's despicable. Shawn still kind of talks to him a little bit, kind of annoys me, but it's fine. Shawn knows he's awful. He's also a Trumper. He's also just like, well, actually, he's libertarian or whatever. Bullshit. Same thing. So just a despicable person. And he called my mom and told on me that I was running away, and I got caught and suspended. And then I wasn't allowed to go to the Weezer concert because of that, which really also upset me because I was going to go on the way. But Myrtle Beach was always this like idyllic place in my head to like run away from Florida. It was like we could drive there and whatever. And it's not a great place. It's kind of shitty and
they have so much. They have like so many mini golfs though. So I mean, I can understand why a child would want to run to there.
Yeah. It was also like away. It was like far enough away from where we were at in Tampa, Florida.
I guess I'd forgotten the Myrtle Beach of it all, but I remember that story. And yes, growing up in Florida near beachline areas, like Myrtle Beach is nothing special at all because we had those type of little touristy beach towns all down both coasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had a crush on Amy, and Amy, I thought, she might wear a bathing suit if we went to Myrtle Beach. So that was part of the 16-year-old me's mind,
I think half the
very elaborate.
Different points had a crush on Amy Garvin.
So true. Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so
that was go ahead, Luke.
Well, I was going to say one thing I would like to address, because over the past 2 days, I haven't gotten a lot of texts that are like, congratulations on the show or emails. I've gotten a lot of texts and emails going, literally, I'm telling you, at least a dozen that said, why the fuck is Blaine not in jail? And I have seen it on the internet and I have seen it everywhere. So I just want to address it really quick. Number one,
yeah, let's talk about that. Go ahead, please.
Because I get
one of my notes.
I get it. It's a story. We're not going to dig too deep into it because we will address it in season 2. It's something that we wanted to show some aftermath. We didn't want to just leave it open to say, what to make you question if Blaine was alive. Well, we want to show you that Blaine is alive, that he's still there, and that he's still, he's still talking on this thing. But there's a lot of complication in what happened in the church, right? So it's like a lot of things that I don't know people, Wayne and Dana may not want to talk about, or the fact that the military came in and killed a bunch of people and potentially turned Blaine into some kind of a martyr, right? So not a martyr, he's not dead, but you know what I'm saying? This potentially complicated scenario. I don't want to say too much there, but I do want to say that it is intentional. We know that it was going to be divisive and controversial to show that. We heard from the network. Literally, the network was like, why is Blaine not in jail? Multiple times. It was a huge note that kept coming up, and we're like, we know. Mm-hmm. So I did just want to address that because it has been the number one thing that has been mentioned since this finale aired.
Liz and I talked a little predictions. Sorry, just real quick. On the last episode, after you guys had asked us, we knew what was going on. And then when we kind of reconvened to do the interview bit, I had said one of my things was I do think Blaine survives. One, it'd be terrible to get rid of Stephen Ogg, and it'd almost be too easy to have him go out in a blaze of glory. And my prediction was he would be a revival preacher himself now out in tents in rural America, maybe doing it. And that's a way to get away with why he's not in town still. I think the in town of it all, him still in his shed, maybe ping some people's radars of like, he still shot a guy in cold blood, whether Wayne healed or not. But I can see their issue, but I also am very grateful he's alive because you could use Stephen Ogg more in the future. So go ahead, Aaron.
Well, I mean, but let's think about that. Like, he shot someone. There's no evidence of Wayne being shot and what's going on and all this stuff. I mean, like, what are you going to do? Did the bullet go through him? What is it? Is he what is he wanting to unearth of this? And if you say healed, now you're telling everyone that Martha healed everyone. And do you want everybody to know that? You also have just the fact that, like, I think the governor who called in General Kale now needs to clean up a mess, one hell of a mess. And it's there. And that these church-going people got murdered inside a small town church, and what's there. And so, what are they going to want to cover up? What do they not want to be public? What maybe they needed Blaine, the governor, and much higher than the governor. Because keep in mind, too, right, there's a reference to Ember Point, right? And that they're going to take all the revivers to Ember Point. Then they find this little, which, by the way, when we were doing the puppet of the alien, I was even going, E.T. Elliot. I was actually saying Elliot as we would lift the hand of the little wounded puppet that was there. And Spencer, our wonderful post supervisor, he was like, no, Aaron, stop. It was making him like emotional. What were you saying, Luke?
I said we cannot keep speaking of poor E.T. at that moment without me starting to cry. So
I know people of a certain age are very affected by sick E.T.
Yeah, well, and it's technically the second E.T. reference because you have that moment with Randy at the beginning when they swooped in and took him. It was some E.T. shit, So there's always going to be E.T. references because that's going to be a thing from me and Luke. But
go ahead.
Well, I'll say, so the Ember Point of it all, right? So now they have a passenger that they're clearly going to study and stuff that's going on. But this came from the governor and is coming from even much, and it's the CDC. This is a national thing. Like, this is coming from possibly the president and beyond, right? As far as what's going on. So now they created this whole mess because this stupid sheriff, kind of went and did some things and led to some stuff and pushed them in some directions. They're going to want to clean up that mess. I could see a world where part of cleaning up that mess is making a deal with Blaine. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say that, like, hypothetically speaking.
Yeah.
There also was a version of this where we almost shot it, where it was Blaine in a cell, and then you see all these letters up on the wall of people who are writing to him. It's also 35 days later. A lot did happen in those 35 days.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't know what happened in this amount of time and what's going on. And again, what did Blaine actually do? Right? Like, really, what did he actually do? Like, he shot someone who's healed that you might not want to tell that's healed. Right. The only actual thing that he did, which is, by the way, it's on video, you don't necessarily know that it's him. It's not him physically doing it, is Wanda. But did he kill Wanda? Like, this thing touched Wanda and she died. We don't know that that's like a gun that he's shooting. Like, do we even know what that means? Like, there's so many things that come into play here.
He did technically escape custody and kidnap Ibrahim. But
he's done, if you really point by point the things he's done, yes, you could make a humongous case. But even without Aaron's point,
I actually disagree.
He walked into a funeral and lit 2 people on fire. He's done a few things, but
Revivers. He stopped a woman who killed a person.
Yes.
He walked in the funeral, killed someone,
but again,
and he stopped her from doing all this.
I'm not trying to even be devil's advocate here, but you pull a gun, whether you shoot somebody or not, you can get in trouble for pulling a gun. You definitely get in trouble for shooting a person, regardless of what happens to the person. You have fired a gunshot at somebody with intent to harm. You can be in trouble for those things.
One time, however, with Wayne,
I know.
What? It was one time.
But that's in a very controlled environment where Wayne is healed.
I'm understanding why people are upset.
They might not want them to know what happened
saying
there.
Even if you take away the governor covering things up, I would point to Wayne and say Martha's now missing. Wayne also is not going to want to explain, hey, he shot me. Well, where's your wound? Well, I don't have it. Well, what happened? Well, my daughter healed me. Where's your daughter? She's gone. Like, so even if you don't give the military and the governor and all that stuff credit for the cover up, you could say Wayne obviously would work out a deal too to just let him be. So like, I'm siding with you is what I'm saying.
All you have to do is start to think about that court case, right?
Yeah.
About the unprecedented information going on here, and there's a jury's going to be like, what? Mm-hmm. I don't know. So Jesus.
Yeah. Whoa.
Okay. Sorry.
You got so animated. So animated. The camera zoomed in on Luke. Like, say more.
Very
dramatic push in with a really shitty A camera operator, by the way, too. Who just did not. It was very unstable.
I think Luke might have tried to pull off his own dolly zoom push pull there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Apologies. Hey.
But there is a lot. And look, seeing something that's there, like it's Blaine is still a big part of this show.
Yeah.
There's a lot to go with Blaine. And we have big plans. Mm-hmm. And there will be aspects of this that are going to be explained and talked about, But there's also, when you really start to break it down, I think it's very reductive just to kind of look and be like, oh, you should be in jail. For what? Mm-hmm. Like, these are unprecedented times. Unprecedented things. Everything
you just said could have all happened in the first 2 weeks of the 35 days. He could have been incarcerated for a few days. They could have worked out a deal. It didn't ping my radar the way it did some of Luke's family and friends texting him angrily.
Not to get too political, but in America, instead of going to jail, some people become president. So I mean, let's just talk about the justice system here. It's just not exactly great.
I know.
So, I mean,
it's a weird thing to be hung up on.
Yeah, think about it. His friends, all of his friends, and these devoted followers were murdered by the government. Like,
good Christian people, by the way. Good.
Yes. So like middle America, good Christian people, white people were murdered by the government. Like, he's about to become, he's like emperor of the United States at this point. Like, what are we talking about? Like, this is the wet dream of every Republican ideology that's like, oh, can we create our sacrificial lambs so that we can stand on the bodies of them in order to have this plight of like, we are being so subjected to all of these horrors. Like, we're the ones that are really dealing with it. It's white people it's real racism is against white people and all the bullshit and all these things and all this, and that Christians are being attacked. I mean, that's this narrative that's constantly going. So what happens when Christians are actually attacked? What happens when all that stuff? I mean, like, it's going to, I believe it would embolden and empower Blaine. And this is why the idea we had, if he was going to be in jail, part of the reason why we didn't do it is because it was too clean to be like, is he in jail? Like, what's here? Like, I don't know. And I think there's more to allow us to play with in season 2 without saying that. But what was going to happen was you see him in jail. You were going to see all these cards, all these, like you're going to just pan across this wall where he has hundreds and thousands of, not hundreds of thousands, but like hundreds and thousands of cards and letters written from all these people, that are, believing in his cause. Right. And what's going on. And they're listening to his preachings, and he's forming a following, of what's going to be there. Now, whether we go that direction or not, I think remains to be seen. But I do think that there's just so much that's there,
There was also he was actually shot, and there was an actual assassination attempt that actually happened.
Yes.
Yeah, he
took one of the shoulders.
Yes.
Just
he was shot by the government.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just saying, like.
So Luke, take this little bit, clip it, send it to Carter and all your family and friends who screamed at you.
Yes.
we know it was you, Carter.
Yes.
Dana was the gunman. What? God damn it, man.
No,
kidding. I've never met Luke's brother.
Jesus.
Hold on, we still have one little bit of epilogue left here. We do come back
there's more.
From break. Yeah, there's more, but it's a short bit here. We'll finish out here. We see Dana sitting on a bench with Em's roommate Kay in a mall. She is saying, Kay, that it hit her really hard, going through Em's things to give to Dana. Dana says, I wish you hadn't told her to go to the bridge that night for closure or whatever, and maybe none of this would have happened. And Kay's like, what are you talking about? She's high, but she would remember that. But she didn't say that. That's my editorial. Dana says a friend told her to go there, and, I assumed it was you. Kay goes, no, we weren't really cool like that at the time. We started out as just roommates. We grew to be good friends. Maybe it was one of her online friends who told her that. And Dana, now back at her place in the evening, she goes through the box again and pulls out Em's laptop and opens up a messenger app on there. And there was, in fact, a chat the very night with someone telling her, quote, your mother's death was not your death, and, quote, go on her birthday, make tonight the night. And Dana's like, who is this KT083 person talking to her like this? She dials May and says she needs a favor. Wayne actually calls her later on and says, is there any way he could watch Cooper sometime soon, this weekend, whatever? And she says, no, he's still missing Em and still blaming you for it. But, they're navigating things with therapy and more. And Wayne says he understands. But, she tells him, we could always talk just the two of them. And Wayne's still not really being able to reveal his emotions or feelings, kind of hesitates. And she goes, okay, then we'll talk later. So May does ring her back a moment later and tells Dana, hey, those message boards you had me looking into, you'll never guess who the IP address was. The Weimer house. And Dana goes, yeah, that tracks, because Aaron. She goes, no. May asked, what do you know about his wife? Turns out she was the court-appointed therapist for Em, but she was not initially. She went out of her way to make sure she had Em as a client. And we cut to Dana now knocking on the door of the Weimer residence, but there is no answer. And in the final scene here, we now close on a red thread being sewn into a dark fabric. It is Nithya Weimar. She's in a wooden cabin and is patching the black skeleton hoodie, which she holds up. Excuse me. And in the same room, Martha Em Cypress, who puts on the costume and turns toward the camera with Nithya in the background and walks toward the frame, puts on the hood. And as we kind of reverse Hitchcock here, backing out of the cabin on Em Cypress in the window of a very remote house on a lake or a fjord, beautiful place, and back up into the air as we close on this season of Revival.
Dun, dun.
That's all.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, thank you. Enjoy doing this for the season.
Yeah. I'm very curious, Liz, to hear your.
Oh no. So okay. I'm coming up with this as I'm talking. May, Aaron's wife, right? Is that her name?
Nithya.
Yeah, of course. I know everything. I know what I'm talking about. Was she working with Aaron because she knew that this girl could cure her cancer and she didn't care if her husband had an affair with him? Or what? Or did she? Well, no. Okay.
I mean, I maybe. Okay. I think it's.
Yeah, I was gonna say they might be cagey here because she survives, and we would see her in a second season to maybe answer some of those. But I started to wonder sequence of events of what she knew when she knew as well.
Yeah.
Because again, Aaron and Lester both being unreliable narrators, we're not certain where she played a part.
So the confirmation here is that Nithya had knowledge, was involved in some way, shape, or form. Now, what I will say is you can go back and hear the conversations with Aaron and Lester, what Lester said at the end. Clearly, Lester is not aware of Nithya's knowledge of this, right? Because Aaron says, make sure my wife is, taken care of. He says to Lester, she doesn't know a thing. Don't worry. She doesn't know a thing. So we know that Lester was concerned about that. And then at the end, he's just telling Em about, what him and Aaron were doing specifically. And that Aaron was doing this for Nithya. But clearly Nithya knew. We sort of see hints of it, when Aaron is, throwing papers in the fire and things like that. It's pretty clear.
But did Aaron know that she knew that?
Aaron? Yes.
Okay. He knew that she knew.
He's talking to her. Yeah, the way he's talking to her, I think that's pretty, fairly clear.
It's a double-sided dialogue. So at the time when you're watching that, it sounds like he's hiding this from her, but I'll say, the title of episode 2 is Keeping Up Appearances.
Yes.
Right? That's one of the biggest giveaways. And that's a line that Nithya says, where it's like, do we really want to go with this? And she says, we need to keep up appearances. And that's not like, why is she saying that? She's saying that because we murdered a girl and we need to kind of look like we're normal people in this society, right? And what's going on.
There's a moment in that episode that I love because it goes, you see it, you watch it, and it just doesn't register. And that's when Em is going to the bathroom. She's following Aaron to the bathroom, and we're on Nithya. And you see her for a second. She looks at Em, right? She sees her. She knows what's going on. And then she just continues her drink. I think that's very telling of just sort of her position throughout this season. But at the moment, you're so focused on Em and Aaron and their relationship and what's happening, it doesn't even register. So that's the kind of stuff that we wanted to do throughout this whole series, is have those tiny little bits and pieces that you could catch up on.
And that's it. I did rewatch the episode 1 recently, and the whole time I was like, oh, I have to rewatch this entire thing.
It's meant to reward you for that. I mean, that's the thing. It's meant to reward you. And, and if you think about, so if you know that she's aware of Em being a reviver. And so it's funny because people are like, wow, when you watch episode 2, it's like, man, Em's telling everyone that she's a reviver. Well, Aaron knows she's a reviver when he's talking to her. Nithya knows she's a reviver when they're there. When Em comes in to the therapy session, what is Nithya pushing? If you really analyze what's being said there and what Nithya is doing, she is pushing an agenda. And there's an agenda that the Weimers had that exists now. But I will say, there's more to Nithya than is just this extra big bad. There are layers to this, and there's more that's going on. Does she not have cancer and she's just bald?
No,
she has cancer. She definitely has cancer. That's real. She has cancer, but also
Liz doesn't trust anything anymore. These are all lies now.
My brain board.
No, we've seen her at the radiation treatment multiple times.
Oh, right.
Liz is questioning every little bit.
That's fine. No, I love it. No, she definitely has cancer. I mean, they did use the cancer as a alibi so that Aaron could leave while she's there. I mean, think about it. She's getting her chemo done, and she's fine with Aaron leaving for multiple hours in the middle of that. Right? She knows he's leaving. She knows, and it keeps her clean, keeps her there, right? And what's going on. And when he's throwing the stuff in the fire or whatever, and she's like, what's going on? She's frustrated at him, and he's just like, I'll take care of it. And this is, a little bit of that male kind of bullshit that we'll do sometimes. We're like, I got to figure it out. Leave me alone, kind of thing. But she's clearly, knows what's going on and is concerned about, because it's who came into our house? Because they are confused, and what they're thinking is that, and this is where we do these misdirects. So now we can dissect this for one quick second.
Yeah, no, that's great.
They think that he's like, Lester, there's someone in my house. He's doing this. They think that Lester has sent a masked man to come and ransack their place. But that's totally unrelated to that. That is Jesse Blackdeer, who's just researching the Rose murder and what's going on. But because of this convolution within their own plan, they're calling Lester, and they're like, what the hell's going on? And Lester's just like, you're getting unhinged.
Yeah.
Like, you think this crazy shit's happening. But Lester had nothing to do with Blackdeer's, that piece of that. He was not the one who was having this ramsack. So then, but Blackdeer being on to this creates a paranoia that causes them to start to overreact, which then leads to Aaron wanting to say, like, I need to get out of this. Like, and I'm about to be caught. Like, I'm on the verge of being caught. Like, this shit's going to be bad. So then Lester, though, realizes Aaron's about to blow this all up. Everything that we've worked for, everything that I've done, this crazy person who he's clearly very pissed off is about to blow this all up. So what does he do? He goes back to the well from 2 years ago where he paid $10,000 to an officer in order to clean up a mess, right? And to help with the planting of evidence for Rose. Also, maybe to move Rose's body into a particular spot in a junkyard, which is why there's a text message about what's going on with Aaron. And so they know where this is. That's why it just says Blue Cutlass. So it's like, it's saying I left the body in the Blue Cutlass without saying that, because you don't want to text that, right? So and what's being there? Why Blue Cutlass? Why all this stuff? Like, not Blue Cutlass, but like, why? It's November, it's in the cold. If you're going to bury a body after this happened, it's probably hard ground. What's the easiest way to do this? Move it into this lot with this crazy preacher dude who, if down the road we want to make look bad, we can make look bad. And they knew that. So they knew that he had a tie to Rose. So the plan was like, we can make Blaine look really bad. There's a lot there. And we'll go into more of that in season 2, and there'll be fun things to kind of see. But they, there's an understanding of, like, there's a paranoia that starts to build because of Jesse Blackdeer coming back, which was unexpected, because they did not know Revival Day would happen. All they thought was some gooey stuff was going to come out. They would capture it, be able to drink it. And then he thought it would heal Nithia's cancer, and Lester would be able to live forever, right? Or would give him life. So that was their goal. And then, but something different happened with them in this massive explosion. The supernova, as Luke was saying, happened. The detonator that blew the door right off. It was supposed to be a key to unlock something, but she was more than a key. She blew the door off, and something crazy happened. And when she hits the water, there's this ripple that happens. And she's the center point of Revival Day. And then how far that reaches is how many other souls awaken, right, as a part of this, and brings this certain number of people in this particular radius, like how far it's really going to be, how far that wave, that ripple goes, and that's how many people are going to come back. But yeah, they're getting paranoid, throughout this whole process, and that's why Nithya is saying to Aaron, like, there's someone in our house. Why is there a cop knocking on the door? Like, Aaron, do you not have your shit in order? Like, we got a plan, and you're messing this all up, So there's a lot there to unpack. And the more you watch it, the more you'll see how much is really, really going on. And then now, but Nithya has really, helped Em in a lot of ways. And I think, Nithya is helping Em in episode 9 and what's there, like seeing her struggling with this. And I think she is helping her. And I think that creates Em might, because the question then becomes, she's very sickly sitting in that chair, right? Then when you cut to her, she's not in that chair, and she's with Em. And did Em heal her cancer? If she did, then wouldn't Em be sick? Or is she there, or what? There's a lot of things going on here, and how that needs to be unpacked. And again, I'm probably giving even too much information, but there's a lot there that's going to go into season 2.
No, there'll be some stuff like that. My question, I guess, would be about the infidelity. At what point did she not care? about
Or was that part of it? Was that part
there
of
was
it?
that always
I think you have to ask that question. You have to ask the question. Was it orchestrated?
Okay.
I mean, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, look, Lester flat out says, due to his infidelity, this is a way to kill two birds with one stone, right? Which is get rid of this little girl that he had an affair with and heal my cancer, right?
Yeah.
So I think that those two things could play up of like, I need to get rid of, so Aaron had an affair. I need to clean up that mess. And I also need to, my wife's cancer has gotten worse and I need to help. So what can I do? And I mean, that's definitely a way to try to solve this. So he goes rogue to try to do that. Lester finds out, right? Because Aaron rents a car from Alonzo's, drives it to the bridge. And that bridge, which is right by where the grist mill and what's downstream for that, all that property is owned by Lester. As we know, Lester does not like shit on his property. Normally, not just like nefariously, not like for ulterior motives. Like he actually is just a curmudgeon in that
old
way.
Man.
Yeah. and as a lot of old people are. And so he sees a car on his property. He calls to tow it. Like, hey, what the hell is this? Not even knowing that it's Aaron. That's what alerts him. Oh my God. This is, and then he realizes this is Aaron's, and then he follows him into the woods. And like this bastard is going to take this all for himself. And he says this, in his monologue, and he says this, and now I got to like get in my gear, so that I can at least try to, he doesn't make this happen. So hopefully I can do the ritual right. It's supposed to be a sacred ritual. And this person's just trying to like impromptu do this. Like he has no idea what he's doing. And then, whoa, what the hell? M is different. We're off and running.
So we had a decent amount of questions through the season, but you guys have managed to answer them as episodes progress. And again, we can't answer too many things on Nithya, on Blaine, on Tyler, because they have survived and you have stuff you either haven't been able to do or still want to do with them in a subsequent season. So we can't really, and you kind of covered all three of them in this episode too, but I do have a couple questions. So from the time Blaine got his angel, his passenger, until the time he started manning the woods to make sure none of them bubbled up, is there any kind of headcanon on how many might be walking around the woods right now? Because you did mention Damon Manning had one out there that was going to have a little mini arc.
What I will say, something that we didn't really, we it's there, right? So if you recall, Jordan's passenger comes to her when the passenger notices, like there's a telekinetic connection there, of feeling that they're, in distress.
It was not directly from the M healing, because it seemed to coincide with it. That's why I was going to ask my second part of the question.
I mean, we specifically show that Jordan is in distress, and then her passenger starts to come out of the water, right? So we're telling you through juxtaposition that this is the case.
Okay.
One thing I think that is interesting is to note that Lester goes to Riverside. And I do think that he's going to Riverside to look for Wanda, but I also think he's going to Riverside to do intel on M, because he knows, once he knows she's there, and he knows through something that happens, there that she's in distress, he's going to go to Moore Creek. It's basically telling him, okay, now, and Lester knows a lot of things. We don't know how he knows a lot of things yet, but he knows a lot of things. Clearly, he's done a lot of research and stuff like that. So we have to assume, he knows stuff about the passenger and stuff like that. So there's an element of that distress draws the passengers out. Okay. So Wanda, the same thing. Wanda's passenger is out because we saw that she was being tortured, essentially, like that.
So the one that the militia was waiting for that did start to bubble up, that he ends up taking out by rifle, that was in fact M's?
That was in fact M's, yes.
Okay, yeah. That answered my follow-up part.
And that's at the time where M is in distress. Yeah. She's being tortured.
That connects that happening to her.
Yeah, so it's coming. Yeah, they continue to. It basically they show up when like you need me. Okay, it's like it's making those particular sounds like for a dog. You don't even call for a dog, but like if a dog feels you in a little bit of distress and it like tail starts wagging and it's running over, like the water starts bubbling and the passenger starts coming over. Yeah,
yeah.
But they are in the water the majority of the time. That's where these like souls are kind of floating around doing some stuff. It's there, and then they come out as needed. Okay. And so as things are happening to people, they would walk in, and then as they're there, Blaine believes that he has a way to kind of like maybe route them or something that could potentially be the case with some of these dream catchers and things. And I think that if he had the passenger, if you look at the way the church is constructed, she's at the end there on this cross down the aisle, and then the aisle has this pathway of dream catchers. So if the passenger, was there, it would walk effectively straight to her. And keep in mind, Blaine, this whole time, is these angels are weapons to kill demons. That's how he associates the whole thing. What he doesn't understand is that if it's Em's, it's going to walk to her, and if it's it's her passenger, then it's going to combine like Jordan or like Jesse. But if it's the wrong soul that meets with the wrong body, then something very horrific happens because they're not meant to combine, and they start to combine, and it's going to disintegrate them in a bad way.
Copy that.
And that's why Wanda gets all melted and disintegrated. Yeah. And then you see this wounded, not doing well passenger because it doesn't have its host. And now it's kind of wandering around, not in the water, right? And it's just like...
That really is as sad as E.T. That really...
It is. Yeah. Because it's trying...
Wanda.
It's that's so great. Its host is so like in my mind, that passenger has been wandering around the woods since Wanda died because it's like it feels the pain and it can't connect and it's like doesn't know where to go and it's lost, and it's this lost soul and what that means. And I think there's a much bigger aspect of this of like what it means to have a passenger without a soul and potentially a reviver without a soul and what that could mean. Like how could you, what that equate to? I think is a really interesting thing to explore because what happens to Em is not fully understood at this moment, when that explosion happens, and the aftermath of that is something that will definitely happen and we'll come to realize in season 2. Like, we'll come to her there and see what actually happened from a different point of view.
When does season 2 begin? I forgot. I couldn't remember.
I don't know. We might not even get it. So if not, then if for some reason I'm not going to do a season 2 and we've gone 2 years and nobody else has picked it up, we'll come back and we'll just tell everybody everything that was actually going on.
Okay, cool.
In the meantime, Renew Revival, Renew Revival S2 has been a popular one too. I've seen people using
Renew Revival S2.
It doesn't hurt. Let the network know.
Yeah. We're just going to make Tim and Mike write our version of Revival as a comic sequel.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could just do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, again, as I told you both, online, offline, very good, very engaging, very solid storytelling, well-crafted season of television that we had a blast with this entire 10 weeks. And honestly, thank you for entrusting me to kind of take lead and recap these with you. Thank you all for making travel delays, literal funerals, birthday Liz. We've all been able to make this work 10 straight weeks despite a lot of hiccups. Scheduling can be a beast. As someone who does podcast scheduling all the time, it's not easy. So thank you all for being able to do these.
Thank you both. Thank you both for doing this and for supporting the show and talking about it and getting excited about it. I mean, it means a lot to us. So
no, it's
been fun.
You guys made it easy to be happy and excited about it week to week. So
and I said this before, but this is the best way to watch the TV show. I highly recommend getting to talk to the producers after every episode.
Every week.
Everybody involved in it. Everyone should do this.
Yeah. No, really appreciate like Liz, you in particular, like kind of coming in, last second, we don't know each other.
Literally.
Let's watch a show and do this for like, multiple months and see how this goes and rolling with all the punches and everything, and really appreciate that. And it was a lot of fun. And yeah, Shawn, you're my brother. I love you, and I appreciate all the time and effort you're putting into this.
Something.
Let's get a season 2 and let's do it again.
Season 2, it'll be officially official. It'll have a different hashtag. It'll be all kinds of fun upgrades.
Yeah, be a whole thing.
You can still hashtag revival just to mess up the people who want it to be about God.
Please
But,
do.
you know,
Please
but
do.
also,
I like it.
so that we can find comments and things. We'll do something else too. Revival, sci-fi,
Do both.
better revival. Hashtag better revival.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you both for the time as always. And this so concludes the season of episode 10 as the recaps go. And we'll do it again soon. Like Aaron said, if something doesn't happen, we'll just come back and talk it out and have Tim and Mike give visual. We'll do a motion comic while we talk about it.
That sounds
Yeah.
fun.
If something comes up and people want to have like a bunch of questions, they start to add up, we could, come back and do like a Q&A thing, down the road, or something like that.
I thought about that as an episode 11 kind of season wrap, but you guys did such a good job. I had them written down and you were knocking them out as the episodes would go. So I just kind of threw in the last couple that were still a little outstanding. But otherwise, you guys have answered everybody's questions. And shove it, Luke's family. Not that crazy that Blaine would not be incarcerated 35 years.
Yeah, of all the questions, like that's the one I'm like, oh, come on, there's more to like that's a like a low-hanging fruit, like an easy one. But there's like other things that I get. Like I fully understand why they'd be questioned. But that one I'm like, come on.
As we said many episodes, look outside at the real world and then answer why people don't get in trouble for crimes.
Yeah,
we always have
the
to bring it
35
back to
days
that.
also is like an easy answer to that.
And next year, stay tuned for Ember Point, which will have merchandise, real tacky merchandise, because that's what we do in the real world. We put merchandise on our concentration camps.
Exactly.
So, bringing it down. Sorry, guys. No, we do appreciate everyone listening. If you stuck it out this far, thank you for hearing all about our Christian backgrounds. And Liz, who's been a pagan from birth, apparently she didn't have anything to say about all that. But no, I'm kidding. I think you said you were Catholic too, right?
Yeah. Which is basically pagan.
We've all strayed. But but yes, gentlemen, thank you. Listeners, thank you. Liz, thank you. We will we'll let the gentleman go here, and again, hopefully, we'll be doing this again for season 2 sooner than later.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right. Thanks, guys. Thank you again to the gents for the discussion on episode 10. We now move to a chat with the show creators, from the show creators to a chat with the creators of the source material, the Revival comic book series. First up, he is a writer and artist whose work includes Image Comic Series Hack Slash, Local Man, Loaded Bible. He's also written and or drawn for many a known IP, including Batman, Nightwing, and G.I. Joe. Welcome to the show, Mr. Tim Seeley.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. And we are joined as well by an artist and writer whose webcomic Battlepug garnered him an Eisner Award. He is also drawn for everything from Voltron to Marvel's Runaways to DC's Green Arrow and Black Canary. Please welcome to the program as well, Mr. Mike Norton. All right. Thank you both for joining us. As I said, we are going to get into revival stuff for sure, but we've been asking all guests, actors and the like. We go back to the very beginning and kind of ask, was writing and or drawing always the path for either of you? Did you guys have dreams of being something else before it found you? Or maybe what first gave you the bug to just be creators?
So, this is all I ever wanted to do. I mean, it's a pretty simple answer. I as soon as my dad brought home a comic book on his way home from work, that's all I ever wanted to do. I mean, I wanted to play guitar in a band for a little while, but I'm not good in around people. So yeah.
People ruin everything. So that
People
makes
do.
sense.
People do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much the same as Mike. I got a Spider-Man comic when I was 5. I think Mike got the same character as a comic, and then I was pretty much hooked for life. But I, briefly considered other stuff, and then was immediately like, "That's a terrible idea." And I think the worst idea I actually had was that briefly I was like, kind of would like to be a cop or like a detective, which that was in high school, and obviously a terrible idea. But the research I did for it did help me out eventually when I wrote stuff like Revival, because I kind of knew roughly how it worked. So that's partly Dana's story comes from those musings, very small, in high school, being a Wausau police officer.
That's news to me.
Right? I thought it was from the hours of just watching procedural television, but you had actual real world research.
I mean, that's what I thought about taking. I thought about taking the FBI test when I was in high school. Actually, I bought all the books and did because you can do the FBI test without having a police background. You can have any background. So I got the materials to take the FBI test. Unfortunately, one of the first ones is you cannot have any marijuana in your system, and that was college. So I was like, I've smoked a lot of weed this week, maybe not so much. So
I don't think Tim's far off from our age list. I'm going to ask if the FBI thing is. I did the very same thing. It was X-Files partly a reason you might have thought to do that? Because it was for me.
I thought I did like X-Files. I thought to do it because I had seen a documentary about FBI agents who do recreations with like art and clay and stuff, like recreate victims and all this sort of stuff. And they were looking for artists, and I thought that was kind of cool. Like, I like to make stuff with Sculpey and stuff, and I don't know.
Unsexiest version of Ghost I've ever heard.
So there you go, yeah. I thought I could recreate dead people with clay, maybe.
Oh, I've seen those. Yeah, those were always cool. Like where they're building what the victim would have looked like kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, it sounded like it was like a, I don't know, I was watching public television in college. I was probably stoned, I guess, probably. I was like, oh, that looks awesome. And so that was like a thing I considered. It just sounded like, oh, that'd be like an interesting backup. You got an art degree. I don't know. You're also an FBI agent. I thought that would be a good idea. So there you go.
Perfect answer.
There's worse ideas. Well, Mike sounds like he didn't stray that far away from books and comics and just storytelling. So, Mike, you can answer first here. Do either of you remember your very first paid gig in the comic book world?
Oh, yeah. My first paid job was I drew the Badger for Image Comics, and that resulted from just inundating the writer with fan mail when I was in college, and it just kind of paid off. And that's essentially how I've gotten every job ever since. It's just annoying people. Right. So, yeah. I've been pretty lucky with my career path as far as that stuff goes. There's not a lot of I really wanted that gig and I didn't get it kind of stuff. I've been terribly lucky in that regard.
Let's see, mine goes back, if we're counting like paid, but it's paid very, very low. When I was 15 or 16, I went to a Chicago Comic-Con. There was a company called Fifth Panel Comics, and it was like sort of like a fanzine almost, I guess. And I submitted some stuff to them, and they published a thing I did called Cybersaur, which was like the idea was that they found like this ancient race of dinosaur people frozen, but they were kind of messed up, so they had to repair them with cybernetics. And so it was like RoboCop plus, I don't know, Land of the Lost or something. And I got paid, if I recall, I think it might have been $15 total for a 10-page story, just so they could say they paid me something. Because I think I got the cover too.
And this was in the 1950s? Is that?
Yes,
Okay.
It was 1994, I believe.
Okay.
And that comic is out there somewhere. So that was paid, but I mean, only very, very, like by the loosest definition of the term paid, that was a paid gig.
But made you feel like you were legit in a way, I would assume, no matter, it could have been $1, just something for the work, I think, sort of
totally.
validation.
I was riding high. I rode higher off Cybersaur than I did off my latest X-Men gig, for sure. I mean, that was like the biggest time. I didn't even know you could publish comics by yourself. That was like, that was such an amazing idea. So,
did you take that $15 bill and frame it?
There's $15. I think at that time I had a girlfriend, and so I'm pretty sure I bought her Burger King, which would be yes, that would be the go-to at the time was take the girlfriend to Burger King.
Wait, didn't you work at Burger King?
I worked there. Yeah.
So
employee discount.
That was you pocketing that money.
It was much easier to take out someone with $15 if you had an employee discount.
Well, now she knows.
Yeah. Well, she worked there too, by the way. So, really romantic. Her mom worked there also. There you go.
Okay. Were you married to the Burger King? Was it like the Burger King's daughter? Was it the Burger Queen and the Burger Princess?
Yeah, that's right.
Burger royalty.
I was in line for the Burger Prince. There was a coup, unfortunately, and Burger King was overthrown. So I missed
we didn't. Wow.
Lived in exile.
I lived in exile at Hardee's across the street.
Oh no, the Monster Burger.
Drowning in roast beef. It was glorious. But, yeah, so there you go.
Perfect. Another perfect answer. So earlier in this, so the guys mentioned that Tim said when he finally saw David James Elliott on set, he ended up as a dead ringer for his actual dad, which Wayne is somewhat based on. But Mike, do you think casting wise they got closest to your artwork because they came like pretty darn close in some instances?
Yeah, actually, yeah. One of the things that I was struck by when I saw them filming is that I didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about what these people walked and talked like, you know. I had a visual idea because I was drawing it every day, but drawing Dana and then seeing Dana say stuff was really weird. And so I realized that maybe like visual cues that I had taken from other people or either actors or people I've known didn't really apply anymore. Once you see Melanie as Dana, you're like, well, that's Dana now. You know, that's how I'm going to see her in my head now. So I guess I'd be like Tim. I think David came the closest to the comic. And in fact, I've told everybody that listens that he is sufficiently scary as the dad, because he's he's intimidating intense, presence.
He's intense like Wayne is supposed to be without even trying. So he tries, it's even scarier.
It doesn't hurt that he's like 6'3.5" or something, and it has an imposing figure.
I'm the same height as him, and he's still scared.
Yeah,
he felt like he was 2 inches taller.
You felt like you were looking up at him.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like a kid, and he was my dad.
Which is what the character is supposed to be. So really good casting on that.
Big Jag energy, we'll call that.
Yeah. Big Jag. I wanted to talk about Jag so bad, but I didn't.
He'd have been happy too.
I think he would have liked it.
Yeah, he was happy that it got brought up at San Diego Comic-Con with you guys a couple weeks back. And, people were asking about a revival and stuff. He's like, I'm down too. It's just, there's rights issues and other nonsense going on always.
Yeah.
But yeah. So in a kind of similar vein, so some of the characters were kind of dead ringers for how you sort of saw them, and now you see them going forward. But do either of you have someone in mind who would be a perfect person to play you if they were ever to adapt your story for screen? So a Mike Norton biopic or a Tim Seeley biopic? Who would you want? Let's say, who would you want?
Who would I want and who would get cast are two different things.
Yeah, do them both. Do them both, please.
Because Tim knows this. While we were eating in Old Town at San Diego Comic-Con many years ago, there was a small Hispanic family that kept following me around saying that I was Seth Rogen.
Right, there you go.
And I haven't managed to shake that. I mean, people have stopped calling me that, but for some reason that was the thing for a while. Who I would want, I don't know. Somebody handsome that talks like Eeyore.
The British actor, it's like Jared Harris or his brother. You don't have too dissimilar a look from. I'm trying to think of what somebody would know him from. But
I have to Google something every time we talk. Who did you say?
Jared Harris, I believe, is the actor. He's got a brother in the business too, and I might be thinking of him, but yeah, he could pull it off. He
Richard Harris's kid?
They are Richard Harris's kids, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. The original Dumbledore.
Oh.
Mine is easy. It'd be Charlie Day, I guess. We have to shake that now. But he used to work a lot better. But yeah, just that manic thing that kind of that Charlie Day is my guy.
That makes a lot of sense. Yep. I was paying too much attention and not looking at that I was supposed to talk next. So, hey, what's the most surprising event or twist for you guys in the show that you maybe didn't see coming?
we kind of saw it all coming because Luke told us what they were going to do.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
He didn't spoil it as much as, I mean, you guys talk more than me, but
I mean, when he told me what they were going to do with Brent, that was the one where I was like, wait, what? I thought it worked great because how likable the actor playing Brent was.
Mm-hmm.
But he was cast, I think, before they knew he was going to go bad. So, you know, when I saw the initial casting, I was like, oh, that'll be really well, you know, because that character's supposed to be kind of the affable detective who kind of, you know, is just trying to live his life. And they took the hard turn on he's a total scumbag. And so, but then it worked even better because he's so charming and so funny. But you know, and Luke told me they were going to do it too. But when he got killed by a television, I did not expect that. That was pretty great. So that was a pretty hard twist, I thought. And I mean, there's a few in there, but I think and sometimes with a fair amount of like nerves, Luke would be like, "Just so you know, we're going to do this. I know it's different from the comic, but just so you know." And then, you know, I would always.
Did you care that like it was going off on its own? Like, was like him being like nervous about it? Did you care?
I mean, I would let him spin and twist a little bit, you know, and then I would act like I was super offended. But no, I mean, you know, Mike and I knew this from the beginning that it's a different medium, so television has to do different things. We knew that, and we also knew, you know, in the comic we get a certain amount. It feels like it goes a lot faster, but we actually had a lot more time in a weird way. To sort of get to stuff. And we could do a lot more quiet moments. We'd do a lot more things that weren't directly related to the big plot, even if sometimes readers complained when we did that. We didn't care. We just did it anyway. Whereas it has to all go towards the thing. And it's got to maintain a kind of pace that we didn't have to do. So we knew going in, you know, I don't think there was really anything, you know, that I didn't see the reason that they did it, for sure. You know, and also I was there for the filming the last episode, and I know how incredibly hard it was to get everything in before the sort of deadline. So even seeing that, it was like, oh, this is why you have to change things. You live in a very different, you know, time scenario than we did.
Yeah, the fact that they got it as close as they did is kind of a gift in my mind. I think it's about as good as you could make it.
Yeah, I know there was versions of this where Luke was talking about, like, do we do something that surprises people? Because obviously, you know, it's an adaptation, and when you know, there's a big mystery of who's the killer. Like, do you want to make it different so that people don't have it ruined? But I think the way they decided to do it, which was it's a little more hidden, and, you know, the big reveal at the end still plays, but you know, it's tied into other stuff, and you get lots of sort of red herrings. You characters that you think it's going to be. And I think the way they did that is also something we didn't have to do necessarily. We could pace out our red herrings for 47 issues, you know, and we could really hide it in subsequent plots. We could follow people, and they just couldn't. They just had to be like, you think it's this guy? Hey, it's not Blaine. Like, you think it's this guy? Hey, it's not him. You know, so it was a different structure than we were working with.
Did Image or anybody, the powers that be at the time, tell you like this was the ending, or did they let you fill out exactly you had your plotted out outline that went to happen to go to 47? How did that end up wrapping for you?
We wanted to do 60. We had the idea of the main mystery, and we wanted to do 60 issues because that seemed to be the magic number for a good long run. And but once we got to a certain point in the main story, I mean, we had this discussion, and I was saying, you know, once we get the ball rolling for this final thing, we can't really control the pacing to make it be 60 without it feeling padded. So it ended up being quite a bit shorter, but I mean, 47 is a long time. So.
Yeah. It's amazing to hear. Sorry, go ahead.
Crossover. That's 48 issues. It's nice. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think part of like Mike was saying, is part of it, we let it go naturally. So when it sort of started picking up momentum towards the end, it was like, well, this is going, it's happening. The story's unfolding. But And then the other side of your question is, like, Image doesn't really tell you anything at all. Like, once you get a book accepted by Image, they kind of like just get out of your way, and which is great because then you get to make all the decisions. And then the bad side of that is you get to make all the decisions. But they were comfortable with how we wanted to do with it. And I think, in the end, the amount of the story we got, if it had been 60, if we'd have tried to sell people that compendium afterwards, it's already £5. I think it would have been 8, and that would have been ridiculous. So I'm glad we hit it at our 48 mark.
Tim, this is big. Were you aware that on the visit Wausau.com site, it has a whole feature page on Revival and you, and how proud of you that they are?
No, that's funny. So I didn't see it, but they did email me. And they asked me if it was okay if we featured Revival on the tourism site. And I was like, are you sure?
So cool.
And then, so I had to get permission from Blue Ice and Luke and Sci-Fi, and they were like, yeah, go nuts.
Wow. That is crazy.
It's kind of awesome. Funny. I mean, it's a weird one to promote because it's like, it's not like it doesn't really make fun of us or anything. It just, is the location, but it is also a zombie horror epidemic apocalypse story. So there's that too.
Come meet your maker in Wausau.
Come drink our water.
I know what Tim means, though. A lot of times TV shows are like, grizzled big city guy goes to this town and just keeps remarking on how all shucksy and stupid the people are in the town. And the Revival has none of that, and the TV show definitely doesn't.
Oh, no. We want you to like the people.
Yeah, exactly.
We also live there. Yeah. We want to do two things on this, because Mike and I talked about this from the beginning. We hated stories where, people go to small town and it's like dumb and everybody's ignorant. We hated that, but we hated worse stories where people come from a small town and they think the city is some kind of crime-ridden hellhole. So we hated both of those things, as we are both from smaller towns and we both live in Chicago, and we know that neither of those things is true. So the idea was to make it honest. I think that was what we wanted to do, and certainly, part of the living in Wausau, and I grew up there, so I can tell you this is true. There's a certain amount of people who live in a small town who are like, this is where I want to be, I never want to leave. And then there's a certain percentage of like, I have to leave here, there's nothing for me, right? And I was I have to leave here, there's nothing for me. I would have loved to have stayed, but there was no job for me. There was no, you know what I mean? I was never going to be able to stay there. So that was the kind of honesty that we wanted to portray, not small towns are full of hicks and morons, and big towns are full of crime and sex fetishists or whatever,
Yeah.
So
reality, both are filled with both.
Yeah.
Right.
And Revival should testament to that.
Yes, exactly. So that was, and I think that was something Luke was really always very cognizant of too, is that it could have easily been the Hallmark ending, the Hallmark holiday thing where it's like, I got to stay in my hometown because that's where my heart lives. And I was like, it just cannot end that way. It cannot be at the end, Dana's like, screw going to Chicago, Wausau's where it's at. But I just hate that. It just makes me so mad.
Mike, what was your small town that you escaped from?
It's called
Tennessee?
Jackson, Tennessee.
Jackson.
It's Carl Perkins and Wink Martindale are from there.
Now I have to Google these things.
Yeah.
Let me just guess. Carl Perkins is a football player.
He wrote Blue Suede Shoes.
Oh, I was close.
Yeah.
Maybe thinking of Carl Lewis, who also wore shoes. But no, Wink Martindale was the TV host from back when.
Hosted Tic Tac Dough.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
But he did not invent Martinizing, the dry cleaning thing, because I used to think that all the time when I was a kid.
All right. Liz, you can tell us when you Google it what Wink's real name was. I'm just kidding. I see you also linked the Visit Wausau blog, which I can't wait to look at Tim's feature on there.
It's great. They put all the show times, they recommended popcorn. Nice. Yeah.
Mike, are you also Chicago these days? You're in the city as well?
I am. I'm on the north side. into the brown line, hanging out, petting cats.
Yeah. Hey, this is something we asked everybody. Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of comics that might surprise people?
I always hate this question because it's always nope.
No, that's not true.
I mean, I have an art gallery, but that's kind of comics related, right? That's pretty comics.
That counts.
Okay, there you go. We have an art gallery, a pop-up art gallery in Chicago that
Don't you customize action figures?
Yeah, but I haven't done it in a long time.
Oh, that's a side hobby. That's definitely a side hobby.
Yeah, but it seems related. I used to, but I would do it when my daughter would want to join me, and then we would always end up with pink Iron Mans, which is great. But then she kind of lost interest because now she's really into Labubu's. So I don't know. We can't customize no damn Labubu. So
take it over.
I'm learning how to play guitar. That's pretty much my other thing.
Learning? How long have you been learning? How long?
His whole life. He said he was trying to be in the band when he was young.
Right.
Well,
since the 50s?
Off and on for about 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm still trying to learn it.
I bought a guitar during the pandemic because I was going to learn how to play.
That's when I started again. I played in high school and then I started again during the pandemic.
That was your sourdough?
Yeah, it was my sourdough.
The same. We made the same sourdough. I learned how to play part of Every Rose Has Its Thorn, which is just like a G, I think, and a D.
My cousin played that at his sister's wedding.
No. That could have been me.
Yeah, it could have been you.
I could have done it.
Is that lyrically a love song? It's not, I thought that was a sad song.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't matter. As long as it has the vibe of it.
I've heard so many people dedicate Black by Pearl Jam to their girlfriends. And I was like,
that's clearly him losing someone. Yeah.
Like, is that are you hinting at something?
Sting has multiple homes because of the Police's Every Breath You Take, which also gets played to death, and it's very much about stalking. So we ask similar kind of questions for the actors we've had on the show too, but in the vein of that, do either of you have a dream project you'd still like to write or draw? It could be an existing comic of yours you'd like to see maybe adapted to screen, or is there like a character you'd like to take on, a genre even you haven't had a chance to take a crack at that might be a bucket list or a dream one gig for you?
I feel like there's a lot that I've been pretty lucky with the characters I've been able to work on that are corporate owned. I'm sure there's, things here and there, but the ones that I needed to do before I died, I've pretty much hit on. But yeah, I would like to do more of my stuff, whatever that is. I probably an idea I haven't come up with yet. So, but yeah, I would love to do some of the stuff that I've been doing, like, Grumble and Battlepug a lot more. I feel like I don't dedicate as much time to them because I am doing Marvel or DC kind of stuff. So,
let's see. For me, I kind of worked on all the stuff I said I was gonna, and so I'm working on He-Man and Godzilla and Ninja Turtles right now. So I don't know. I have to come up. I would love to do, now that I've seen how it works a lot better, I would still love to do Hack Slash as a TV series or movie probably, or TV, I don't know, whatever. But like the way that Luke and Aaron do stuff, which is you kind of do it yourself to some degree, I think I would like to try that. I don't want to direct anything or whatever. I just like to write it and be on set. That part of it. I like the vibe. I don't like the stress of doing TV and movies. And comics is stressful, but not nearly as much as TV. So yeah.
Yeah. Contains stress. You're not relying on 1,000 others when you're in your room writing and drawing in the same way. It's
just the money involved makes me sweat. Like a comic,
other people's money,
like $400 or something. But with a movie, it just that's
going to the casino or something.
Yeah.
Right. Well, no, we'd like to see obviously more of your stuff, bigger and better. Some stuff adapted. Hack Slash, of course, has been right for adaptation for a while, and we're hoping the revival will maybe help propel that forward. Before we go, we do want to ask, do you guys have anything you'd like to plug or promote, whether it's a website, whether it's an Instagram or something that folks can follow you at just to get more info on you?
Well, I mean, in general, if you like the TV show, you should definitely check out that Revival Compendium from Image Comics. It contains all the stuff Mike and I made that inspired the TV show, and it has a bunch of additional stuff like sketches and everything else. So it's quite a lovely object, and if you're interested, check that out.
I can't reach it, but I did buy it, and I also got this in the mail this morning from Tim's store.
Nice, good deal.
Yes, the compendium's in the back corner. I can't get up. It might reveal my lack of jammy bottoms.
Just bare ass walking over.
Winnie the Pooh, and it put Winnie the Pooh this morning. No.
Oh, you're plugging. Just, I mean, yeah, get the book. Yeah. I have a new Battlepug coming out this fall, so if you can check that out, that'd be cool. But yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm everywhere.
No, we'll link to you guys' Instagrams if nothing else, I think, on the show notes. But
every breath you take, Mike is watching you.
My next song I'm learning.
All right. Just like every cowboy sings a sad song, we must say goodbye to you.
We're going to combine all of them.
All right. But yes, gentlemen, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for creating Revival. It became such a labor of love for Aaron, for Luke, for so many folks that we've talked to. And I hope it's a point of pride for both of you. It's, again, we've talked to many people and so many people on social media showing so much love for it. So we're happy for you. We're happy for this show. And again, #Renew Revival.
There goes season 2, baby. That's where
season 2.
I would really like that, everybody. So do it.
So recommend it to your friends that they watch the whole season. It's a binger. You can binge the whole damn thing. That totally counts. You can binge this, and that counts as points for us. So
it's true. And after each episode, come here, listen to Aaron and Lou give you some insight on it, and listen to some of the actors. And again, in this final episode, we have the creators themselves. So once again, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mike. We were so glad to have you to talk Revival Land more.
I was wondering when we were going to get to be on, actually. Every week, I'm like,
you're the grand finale.
I feel like you should feel special for it being the big.
I do. Yeah. I'm like, when do I get to talk to Liz?
I take that as a point of pride that actors were reaching out to them and going, "Hey, when is my turn?" I'm like, "Well, we have you slotted for an episode you're featured in." So, but because we kind of knocked out the main cast, we thought from the beginning, like Tim and Mike at the end, just to wrap it up and put a good button on it. So,
thanks a lot.
No, certainly.
Thanks for the work you guys did. Thank you for sound compelling. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing the show week to week. We were much appreciative of that too, via Instagram and other places. So, all right, back to work. You're both very busy men. Get back to writing and drawing.
All right, thank you much.
Thanks.
All right, we'll see you guys. See you, Liz.
Bye.
All right, we appreciate Tim and Mike, the creators of the Revival comic, for taking the time with us there. Episode 10 had answered many a question, but of course raised many more and left open a few things we'd like to see explored in the subsequent season, as we talked about with the boys initially, Aaron and Luke, that is. We're not going to read specific feedback this go around for a few reasons. There was a lot of praise for the finale. There's a lot of clamoring for second season. And those who did have some questions about it, honestly, I think Aaron and Luke really addressed a good amount of those, pieces of the puzzle in this recap. So nothing necessarily specific to address to people. How did you feel personally about the Lester reveal?
Everything has blown my mind. Sometimes after I don't even realize what's going on. Like, it felt so obvious. And we did talk about this, not on the podcast. Like, it felt so obvious after that they were literally telling us when they were like, don't underestimate the older people, like, and we were like, like, whatever, like, so I did feel stupid yet again, the theme for me with this show. But you knew. So
after, if you've listened to these episodes, last episode I did tease that in the interim time between hanging up with Aaron and Luke and getting on the horn with Stephen Ogg, that they were like, "Hey, you guys have any theories?" And I was like, I haven't thought about it. I've been in the moment for 9 straight weeks. But
we're living in the now.
There's a little interim time there where I went Charlie Day. Speaking of Charlie Day, red dots connecting. I go, here's the cast. there's like 20 people in this cast, right? It cannot be this person, this person, this person. And then all the secondary characters, like it cannot, it's not going to be like one of the indigenous people. It's not Uncle Don. It's not May. So I'm like just going for process elimination, and literally the only name that was not 100% able to be scratched out for obvious reasons was Lester. And I went, and I wrote Liz an essay text. I wrote, Liz, since we hung up.
You wanted it documented.
I did. I go, for posterity's sake, this is what I'm thinking. I go, I thought about who would have shot those militia people in the woods. I'm like, who knows the woods? Oh my God, Lester knows the woods. And then suddenly everything starts, my brain in like a movie, you start seeing the flashes of all the scenes. I'm like,
beautiful mind.
Of course Lester's going to know about the creek. He knows everything about the woods. He knows everything about everything. And then all the dots start going. I'm like, hold on, they're throwing us off with Wanda and all these other relationships he has. But then, like Liz said, it started to recontextualize every single thing he said, which was like, you underestimate old people, and I got away from the army because it was about death. I'm all about life. And then again, I even jokingly called him Jack LaLanne Jr. in the text, and Aaron and Luke did reference he's very much inspired by Jack LaLanne, and I don't want to make Liz Google another person.
I remember that guy.
They mentioned, yeah, he was a fitness guru who was around like in the 60s talking about living forever. I think he only made it like the late 80s, funny enough, but he was a guy in a tracksuit, always in shape. And it's funny, they mentioned the art department and all those fun things in his mill of his banners and posters and stuff. It was very Jack LaLanne. So yeah, I connected those dots.
Jack LaLanne had anything carved into his chest to help keep him alive. We should check on that.
I would not doubt it. Yeah. Well, here's where I'm a bit of a fraud, though. So I connect these dots. Liz goes, oh, my God, I think you're right. There's no one else it could be, blah, blah, blah. I text the guys. I go, don't say anything. But this is what I wrote, Liz. And I copy-pasted your say. They didn't say anything. So then I text them back a couple days later, and I go, I opened up the compendium, the later compendium that reveals it. And I go, I either didn't get this far in the comic or I read it so long ago I don't remember. So I might be a fraud. So apologies to Tim and Mike. I don't know if I ever got that far in the comic. I own them. I own all 4 compendiums, right? I don't have the big, cool, fun hardcover one, but I have like the hardcover trades. And I don't know if I ever got that far. So apologies. And that's on me because I'm like an avid reader. I have multiple Tim Seeley books behind me. I have some of his Grace and the Nightwing stuff. I'm a fan. I don't know if I ever finished Revival. So, certainly read the first 2 compendiums because I read them again when we started to, get the show in motion with Paper Street with Aaron and everything. But I suddenly wasn't as proud of myself. I'm like, oh no, the ending is in the book.
Yes, well,
the ending is the same in the book.
The whole thing is in the book, which I also read years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of this. Like nothing. This is like a whole new experience for me. And I've already experienced it.
I do think on a rewatch, we're going to hear lines in the early couple episodes, Lester, where you're like, yeah, because you even said the pilot's already got a few lines where you're like, oh, that wasn't innocuous. You're right.
Yeah. So. Everything very much like I only did rewatch the first one because I feel like I want to do it with the dude I'm married to. Like we sit down and watch it all. And even in the first one, I was like, oh, everything is for a reason in this show. Oh no, I have to pay attention better.
So yeah, I didn't say Lester's name at 9 for obvious reasons, but I said I think I figured it out. But then we wanted to hold it and talk about it, and we didn't even get into it with Aaron and Luke this go around. But I knew we'd probably touch on it here at the end. But speaking of those guys, this was our final recap with the showrunners, but we are not done just yet. We hope you all stay tuned for one additional little kind of season wrap-up episode after this, and I'll kind of explain what we have in mind with you, Liz, off air. But it should be a fun one, and we might talk to a few other folks who helped make the show possible. But I will say here, while we might have the most eyes and ears because this was the finale recap, reiterating somewhat what I said to the gents earlier, but it has been an honor of mine to co-host this and to get to speak with just one wonderful actor after another throughout this season. So much fun to talk to the likes of Steven and Andy and Mel and Romy and all these folks. And I'm not forgetting names. I'm just obviously everyone. As Liz told me off air, oh, you got to tell your favorite wrestler is your favorite wrestler. I'm like, that's cool too.
It was pretty cool. It was fine.
Yeah. As you get older, though, I mean, you do begin to understand, time is precious, time is valuable, time is money. I know that's an old adage, but, I want to say again, truly thank you to all these cast members who did take the time to speak with us about their craft, about the characters, about the show. And that thanks extends, of course, to all 3 of you, the boys, and you, Liz, of course. And as I joked, a minor miracle, we were able to schedule 10 straight weeks with all of us, 0 preemptions of the show. We worked around them doing final mix on the final couple episodes. We worked around life events, including funerals, travel delays, and your birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
So and more are happening in between. So yes, thank them again. Thank you again. And thank you listeners for joining us for all these insightful discussions on and interviews with actors about what was a very special piece of television for all involved.
Season 2.
That's right. Hashtag Renew Revival. Yes, but this season of Revival is in the books, as is this compendium recap episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will find you one more time, like I said, for this this final wrap up and talk to some talented folks who made the show possible. So for Aaron, for Luke, for Liz, I am Sean Talley saying, see you back here soon.